hope they weren't taping when I said that.
This special meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that adequate notice of this special meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers. A list of dates indicating that the special meeting would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 o'clock p.m. on Monday, March 13th, 2013. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No. Madam Clerk, please call the roll of the council.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois.
Here.
Councilman Kramer.
Here.
Mayor Levine.
Here.
Councilman Prasad. Councilman Regan.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Councilman Vasanella. Councilman Wright.
Okay. Thank you. Today's a special meeting where we deal with budgets. I appreciate our staff giving your time to come here to discuss your budgets with us. We're following along on our agenda. Anyone who's watching can download that agenda from our website. We'll go through various departments, which we have 9 this evening. And we're now at item number 4, public discussion. All meetings of the council are required to have a public discussion section, of which we're always happy to accommodate. So is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for a public discussion on any item of interest to the public. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor,
Andy.
seeing no one come forward, I move that we close the public discussion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed for this meeting. Thank you very much. So, at item number 5 on our agenda, we have our departmental budget presentations. And so, the first one is our police department, Chief Larry Roberts. And also our township manager, Mr. Bornlocker, is down here too. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to address council for one moment, in your blue folders is a packet, paper clipped together. Those sheets, which are numbered, you'll need to replace those sheets as they currently exist in your budget books. Otherwise, some of the things that we talk about tonight may not make complete and total sense because there were some mistakes made, and including there was one department that was left off the table of contents. We're doing that department on Thursday, so you wouldn't have missed it today, but you certainly would have missed it on Thursday. So the pages are numbered. If you could just remove the pages
Do you know what
from your
section
books.
they are?
There are a variety of sections,
Oh.
unfortunately, Deputy Mayor. There's the table of contents.
I got
There's
that.
Schedule A, which is right in the beginning of the report, as well as the revenue spreadsheets. Those are in the very beginning of the book.
Okay.
And then there are capital forms, which are in Section 4.
Okay. Thank you.
So those are the items that need to be replaced. I apologize for the confusion. However, I spent the better part of today trying to make sure that the numbers you had in front of you tonight were correct, and so I believe that they are now.
Thank you.
Okay. Chief?
Chief, thank you. And Lieutenant.
For starters, I just want to start off by saying it was another busy year, but successful year for the police department. As you'll see, tickets went up, our arrests went down a drop, but that was due to some proactive policing that we did in higher crime areas in the town to try to target certain areas And I just want to thank the council for all your support. As most of you know, too, I sent the email out 3 weeks ago. We passed our New Jersey State Association Chiefs of Police accreditation, which will get the final approval. You have to go in front of a board down in Princeton University. We go on May 15th. We've already passed, but they just have to ask me as the chief a couple extra questions, and then they'll pass us. And then they're going to have a big ceremony in front of council where they'll present the certificate to the governing body. And as the manager knows, we will save money being accredited on our JIF, because we're an accredited police agency. And the other thing I like to say is it costs the taxpayers nothing, because as long as we passed, I had a deal with the county prosecutor, and he paid for it.
Great.
Because he wanted us, the biggest agency, to take on the task of doing it. And when the accreditation people come, they will explain to council what really goes into it. And it was a 2-year process, because basically you have to rewrite every policy and procedure. But the thought process on it is, with having a policy for almost everything, then your lawsuits, if people sue you, should significantly go down, because if you follow certain accredited procedures, a lot of lawsuits get thrown out in court. And of course, like anything else, you know, it's good to have an average police department, but I always want it to be up here. And I think being a handful of departments that are accredited in the state, and one of the largest being accredited, is a good accomplishment to the men and women of the department.
Yeah, and congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
And as far as, I know we had got over to financial oversight, we're not asking for any bodies this year. We understand, you know, with the fiscal times, and you were very gracious to us last year with the staffing. So we're going to hold the line on our staffing.
Careful, I've got the,
In your book, we presented the yearly books. The figures are all in there. If anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. The investigative, it's all broken down with totals. Some cases of interest are in there that the investigative division took on. The only thing, of course, due to the nature of it, I can't include certain narcotics investigations, because as you know, we have someone works with the Narcotics Strike Force, but some of that has to stay confidential.
So, obviously, we just got this, so I haven't had time to go
No.
through it. I would like to, but as it turns out, I happened to open right up to animal control. One of my interests, it's on, it's before tab 2. It's about three pages before tab 2, 4 pages. And the numbers are a little confusing to me. 924 animals impounded, 279 adopted, 163 reclaimed by owners. Unfortunately, 299 euthanized. I didn't realize we did that to that degree. 5 transferred to other shelters and 19 escaped or died. If you add up all the numbers except the 924 impounded, and then subtract that from the 924, it looks like we have increased our animal population in the animal control shelter by 159. But it's been always full, so it's 159 more full?
Mhm.
Really? Wow.
That's primarily feral cats. The cat population is much greater than it was last year in the shelter.
Okay. Thank you.
Are these basically feral cats
yeah.
out there catching birds?
Where is,
There is what?
Capital.
I like what you said about proactive policing that prevents arrests. I mean, in the best of all possible worlds, you would make no arrest because everybody was behaving themselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What we do, Councilman Chase, sorry, what we do is, Deputy Chief and me and Division Commanders, we go over the numbers and we do what's called a mini ComStat, where it's computer-generated targeting crime. And the higher areas, or if we see like trend in burglaries, like I could say it now because it was in the paper, we were getting hit with burglaries and armed robberies. Both the people were arrested. And what happens is, if we see it in an area, we use the street crime unit or we use other methods and we put the people down there and try to, you know, put the priority there to put a stop to it, and usually it works. And just like the same thing with speeding, Magnolia Road, we all know about. If we have a high area there, we do it there. Canal Road, we've been hitting. So we go to different areas by the statistics, and we look at them, and it cuts down on it. And it's also good for the people to see, they don't think of committing the crimes then.
Question on the arrest tab in here. You mentioned there was a slight decline in certain types of crime. These don't give you reference to whether these have increased or decreased. It's broken down by adult and juvenile arrest index.
Yes.
That's on tab 4. So are we seeing, you said burglary was a bit of an uptick?
Yes, but it was a drop. We saw a little more, about 50 more in juvenile. And what we did was, though, we saw a little bit in burglary. We were getting, not just us, all Somerset County towns were getting hit with the ring. But as of about 4 weeks ago, we put them out of business.
Oh, okay.
They were
great.
arrested. So it was in the paper and everything. There was a ring. They were also doing smash and grabs, where at night they would go into businesses, hit the glass, take the cash registers.
Right.
There was a long, drawn-out investigation, and we arrested them, too.
Excellent.
We actually caught them in the act of doing it. And violent crime, the major thing, too, violent crime is down for the year. No homicides, which is always a good thing.
Wow.
So, and I attribute that again to CSU and proactive enforcement.
Are you seeing, is it too early to see any trend for this year, or?
So far, we saw, not an increase, but we had a couple of burglaries like we did. Otherwise, no, we're not seeing. The only thing we're doing, which we're doing as a department now, is an initiative, is traffic enforcement. So I know already for the month, January and February, the men and women tripled what they did last year in tickets.
Wow.
So that's, the National Traffic Highway Safety through the New Jersey State Chiefs took on an initiative with traffic enforcement, and I signed Franklin up for it. So hopefully at the end of the year, we could get some money back from them if we do a certain amount of enforcement. And we're also trying to do that, to lower accidents and everything.
Yeah,
Car
well,
accidents, that's the main thing.
that's terrific. Good. It certainly makes a difference when people are aware that somebody's watching,
Absolutely.
so.
I see that parking tickets have been up, almost doubled from 2010 to 2011 and stayed up in 2012.
Yes. They do different things. A lot of times Councilman Chase will get, as far as the parking tickets, sometimes it goes where you get the good old complaint from a business owner. Hey, people are parking in the fire zone or the handicap spot or something like that. And when we send a car down there, they'll issue a summons if they're in the area. And also, some officers, it's different what they want to do on patrol. Some officers, when they're doing their mall checks, go through there, and that's the type of enforcement they like to do.
Where was the arson?
Oh, I'd have to look it up.
There was one arson.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You can.
I could get you the address, yeah.
Question, I think I know what it means. On tab 6, you have statistics of various issues that happened. Park, walk, and talk, that's like community patrolling?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Even with the staffing, we try to bring that back, and officers, they'll stop out Cedar Grove Center, go to the pizza place and talk to the business owner. Stop in the Dunkin' Donuts, talk to the business owner. Down south where we have all the strip malls,
Right.
on the 27 corridor, the zone car, if it presents itself, they'll walk and talk to the business owners. See if they need anything. A lot of times if there are smash and grabs going on in other towns, we get the bulletins, and the supervisor will go over it in briefing, and the area call, write it down. Okay, South Brunswick got hit on the other side of 27. Maybe there's a chance
Right.
that they're going to hit on our side. The zone car will tell the business owners, hey, just be alert. Don't leave your cash registers right on the counter. Don't leave any setup money in there. So this way, try to prevent stuff.
Right, okay, great. Do they talk to juveniles also, or is it just primarily geared to businesses?
Just mainly businesses. The Juvenile Bureau does something else where they work in conjunction with the school resource officers, where they still work with the kids in the high school after school,
Okay,
where they give their own time. Detective Albani's very big in doing that. He tries to mentor the kids on his own time.
great.
I know the difference between robbery and burglary, but I don't know how theft is different than those two. You have robbery, burglary, and theft.
Yeah, shoplifting, they're all different types of stealing.
Okay.
Like shoplifting, you're going in the store, you're just taking it. Theft is basically the same thing. Robbery's when you use force.
Right, I understand that, but, okay.
Since you're here, I know we're going to talk about the capital budget on Thursday, but I want to prevent you from having to come back. So can you at least address your vehicle needs for your department?
Absolutely. You have it all broken down.
This section, since we're going to discuss the capital budget request for the police department, the corrections that were in your blue folders, they specifically deal with the police department's capital request. So if you haven't replaced it, these are the ones where the new sheets are relevant.
I'm not sure. Are we saying we're not going to talk about this on Thursday, and this is going to take care of the Thursday?
Yeah. The overall township capital budget project will be discussed on Thursday, but the individual department head is here now, so there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't speak about the department's capital budget request for this year now.
Yeah.
C5
What page is it?
in the handout.
So Mayor, in your blue folder, there was a packet.
The relevant pages for this discussion would be C1 in section 4. Okay, C3 in section 4. C4 and C5. And then moving forward to, I believe, further on in the C section. C19 is where the individual request forms begin.
And do you know the page number in the big body of section 1 for police?
Yes, it should be right in your
It's 198.
198, thank you.
That's where police start.
That's where police brings for OE and salary.
Right.
Thanks.
Which is an Excel spreadsheet. Most real sheet is 2.
Right. 198 is the Excel spreadsheet that begins it.
So I see that you're asking for 7, well, here it's just called police vehicles and 4 SUVs. From financial oversight, I know that to be, police vehicles to be cars,
Yes.
and the 4 SUVs to be not Ford Escalades, not these huge things, slightly larger. The difference in the cost, you told us, was about $3,000 per car.
They're not the big, if I could just explain.
Mike,
It's an Explorer size.
Explorer, what happened was Ford,
Mike,
sorry. Ford made, they're not the big Suburbans or the big ones like the ESU. Ford and made the regular patrol cars, they went away with the traditional Crown Vic. And now it's on a Taurus frame, and for 2 officers, it's too tight. So they came out with a mid-level SUV called the Interceptor, which isn't that much more expensive, but we have 2 two-man cars. So this way, 2 officers can fit in it comfortably. Now with the mobile computer, the machine gun rack, the shotgun rack, it's just too tight, and they're having problems fitting in it. So that's why, and then we could put the rest of the equipment in the back. They're not the huge ones that are $10,000 different, though. We only needed the one, and we got it last year. That's for the ESU, the guys that are the EMTs that handle all the first aid calls.
and the 2 two-man patrols are Area 1 and Area 5?
You got it. Yes, sir.
So, Area 5 being the southern part of town and Area 1 being the borders New Brunswick.
Yes.
Is the easiest way to put it.
Yep.
So I was, being the cheap guy that I am, I was thinking of cutting that a little bit. You had been behind, we'd been catching you up. I know that this will put you up entirely whole. I was thinking of stretching that out another year. So I was thinking of maybe cutting that by one to just make it go a little bit longer.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Regan?
Yes, I was part of that discussion, finance oversight. First of all, Chief, I appreciate, for all the department heads also, all the work that's gone into this. So any discussion about, reducing is all about the bigger picture that we're forced to look at, especially on financial oversight in working with our peers. So looking at the totality of the capital budget, I was looking to, and again, how the makeup is done, that's not my issue, of like going down to 8 vehicles total.
So,
Okay. And, yeah, Councilman Kramer?
so 11, so the 7 cars and 4 SUVs, so I was saying 10, you're saying 8.
You're looking on C5, right?
Right, on C5,
Okay,
right.
Please, 7.
Like, the,
Okay.
So why don't we say 9?
do you work for the UN, or are you just a mathematician?
I could live with 9.
An average is an average. Well, say 6 regular cars and 3 SUVs?
Well,
I'll let the chief make up
Yeah.
how he wants.
Or would you rather
Yeah, no,
do
that-
7 and 2, or?
Yeah, no, I understand if you want to let me choose 9, I understand that, you are looking to be fiscally prudent with the town, and I'll make it work with 9. That's no
Okay.
problem.
you can choose the mix.
Okay,
In my
thank you.
opinion.
That works for me.
Yeah, you'll get something next year.
Okay. 9's fine. I can make it work.
Look under your
Okay.
Christmas tree now. But, and in actuality, and I'll say this to all department heads, what I would appreciate, assuming I'm here next year, is, remind us, hello, remind us
You didn't get the
what
memo.
what you didn't get this year. And
Oh, don't worry, I'm writing down the IOU
Right.
with Siri in my
and
eye.
next year's
You don't have to worry
budget say
about that.
requested first in 2002 or whatever, so.
No, I
okay.
appreciate it. I can make it work. I just appreciate folks listening and giving.
Wait, how much did we give you last year? Do you remember?
10.
It's-
But you have to
I
remember,
thought
we
it
went
was
3
10.
years, though, without
Right.
anything. So I just, if we get this year and then next year, like we're reducing it, then I'll come in and I won't have to ask like this, and we could keep up with, we have a very comprehensive maintenance program, and this type will be on target, and we won't have to come and ask for a big number every year.
Okay.
So, Chief, what do you think would be, let's say it was normal maintenance, like how many vehicles would it be average each year? you
6 or
think?
7?
Okay. If we
Yeah.
kept on top of it each year?
Absolutely, and it should reduce the maintenance cost, too,
Okay,
with doing this.
okay. Councilman Prasad?
Yeah, Chief, as I recall, we had made the former chief whole and agreed to a 5-car per year program. And what happened last year? Didn't you?
No, what happened
Get your
was,
cars, or-
he went 3 years without cars.
Right.
So we got way behind, and we had to catch up because the cars were in bad shape. So now, between last year and this year, I should be caught up, and then we'll be on schedule and we'll be good.
I think what I think what Mr. Prasad is getting at, I had mentioned to him, what you had mentioned to us, that you had a motor vehicle involved in an accident.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing. I had 3 of them. I had an SUV that was in an accident, and at the time, the manager the insurance money came in, but I never got it back for the car. It went into the general pool, and then I had 2 cars, which were MVA, not the officer's fault, and they never got replaced. And one was fairly new. Those, if I start losing like that, then it takes a toll when when we're not keeping up with it. So this should level it out.
Okay.
It's a little sleight of the hand there, Councilman Passat.
That's what I'm trying to
To
get
be
at.
honest with you. Okay? But at some point, I got to come to the well.
So
Fair
3 accidents, do we need driver safety?
We're all good. It's all taken care of.
Yeah, okay.
And how many accidents were you personally involved in?
None.
Because rumor has it,
Yeah. No, it's my wife probably, because she complains about my driving.
rumor has it from a very, very special lieutenant she's,
Okay, so that's it for your capital requests for vehicles?
No,
Okay.
there are no more cars, that's.
No more cars,
Okay,
for
yeah, no.
vehicles, but
Yeah,
you
good.
have
You want-
other capital
Yeah, you
requests.
want to touch on
For
capital
him.
quickly? Other, as long as you're here,
Want to walk through those?
if you,
This is C4.
yeah, point us to a page number would be good.
C4,
C1, isn't it?
capital non-vehicle.
When everybody gets there,
Non-vehicles.
just let me know, I'll explain what Mobile Vision Server is.
Oh, I
It's
don't
in the
under-
handout.
I don't understand, it's on both C1 and C4? Is that,
C1 is the 5-year capital plan, C1 is this year alone.
oh, okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so, go right ahead.
Okay.
Number one, starting there, Mobile Vision Server. That's the server, we need a new one. That's what downloads everything from the inboard video and audio in every police car. And that, I think, is a very important piece of equipment.
I'm not seeing those words.
Neither
What is
am
it?
I.
Mobile Vision
What
Server, number one.
No.
page?
We have emergency safety equipment for vehicles.
Oh, okay.
As
Is
number
that-
one.
is
The
that-
Mobile Vision server is in the IT budget. It's further back
I'm sorry.
in your, and I can find the page if you bear
Oh,
with
But
me.
we'll deal with the servers and license.
The Mobile Vision server is under the control of the police department.
Oh,
It's submitted as part of the police department's
Okay.
capital budget request, not the IT department's budget request.
Okay,
And the,
So this is a really cool thing they have. All the cars have TVs, they're always recording, and when the car pulls in next to the station, it automatically downloads.
Yep.
I've got to get one for home.
Just so you know, too, just while the manager's finding that, that cuts complaints down by almost 90%.
So it's,
Because when some people come in, sometimes they get confused, they want to argue their ticket, which has nothing to do with that, but they say, well, we want to complain about, like, let's say, example, an officer's rude. Okay, no problem, we're going to go to the video. And 90% of the time, I say, okay, see you later. Because you know, it's, the truth's the truth. It's a good safety tool, and it's good for the public, too.
So when they go into the court, the video is there for them?
Yep, we could use that in court, or we could use it for an internal affairs investigation.
Wow,
Yep.
All right.
You just download it. You go to the time and date, and it gives us audio and video.
that is cool.
Yeah, very good safety, too, if God forbid something were to happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
so your capital request is on C24?
C24, that's, I was
C24,
just waiting for
okay.
the opportunity. C24 has the summary sheet for the capital budget request for the police department. As you see, you've already spoken about items number 2 and 3, and related to 2 and 3 are number 4, which is the emergency equipment, which all 3 of those numbers would have adjusted totals now that you've just discussed how we're going to
Lower it.
divvy that up. Obviously, all those numbers will go down. What the chief just began to talk about was priority number 1, which is the Mobile Vision server. So, Chief?
Yeah, and as I was saying, that's just, that's why I put it 1. That's a very important piece of equipment. I think good for the officers, the citizens, the Mobile Vision.
And the
You have
mobile
to have it.
vision servers is which item?
That's for the inboard cameras,
Okay,
audio and video.
So the server is like a regular computer server, that's the thing in the building?
Yep.
not-
okay, that's
not
back in the
cameras
public
car.
safety building.
Yes.
And you just said, sorry, Mr. Vornlocker, that items 3 and 4, the lighting and the tough books will decrease by the number of vehicles?
No, what I said was 3 is cars, 4 is emergency lighting equipment for new vehicles. Obviously, that's based on a number of vehicles that was requested.
Right.
And now that that number has been pared down, that number will decrease. Number 5, the mobile computers is separate from that. And
So we're numbered different, at least I'm numbered differently.
I'm talking about priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the
Yes.
summary sheet.
For number 5, I have defibrillators.
Now, they're working off of C, a
Look at
different.
C24?
C24.
C24 was in the packet from the.
C24 is a replacement sheet.
Replacement from the blue packet.
You're on C4. You want 20? He says C24.
C24 is a replacement sheet that was in your blue folder.
Somebody gave you the wrong sheet.
So
You need one, I got one here.
yes, please. I thought I had replaced it. Wait, whoa. No, yeah, I had replaced it but not pulled the other one. Okay.
Okay, good, okay.
So just a quick question, the emergency lighting, what, is that a supplement to the car
It's
lighting?
the red lights and siren and cage and gun racks and all the related equipment that
Okay.
goes into a car to make it
So
from a
when-
car to a marked police car.
When you're buying the car, when you're paying for the car, that's the body of the car, and then you have, it's like buying a camper, and then you have to put in everything you want. Gotcha.
And that'll go down
And yeah.
because we're going to be two less cars. So
Yeah.
that number will
Yeah.
go down.
Okay.
Just as number 6, the new mobile Motorola radios,
Mm-hmm.
that'll go down too because there'll be 2 less radios.
Okay.
I'll go down about $10,000.
About $10,000.
I always wish they could make a light that didn't require you to keep the motor running when you're on an outside job.
Yeah, you're right, because it drains, that takes a lot of power, you're right. You don't have it running, that battery goes whoop, right down.
If some one of these companies would come up with LEDs running off a solar cell.
Yeah.
For I mean, you'd also have to hook up, so when the car's moving, you'd run it as usual.
Sure.
But for when you got a sitting car,
Yeah,
because we'd save on gas, we'd save on CO2 in the atmosphere, but
We have somebody
They haven't
from
done
Public
it
Works
yet.
put that up on the-
Contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Wright?
I apologize for coming in late, but on number 3, emergency lighting, that went down because of the 10 cars, right?
Right. We went from 11 to 9.
to 9.
Yeah, that's correct.
11 to 9 cars.
Yes, and that'll go down, Councilman Wright.
Okay.
And that's what we just discussed earlier today, 9 as opposed to
About
11.
28, 29,000 roughly, sir.
28, 29.
I like the defibrillators can tell the people, the rest of council and the public, the numbers
Kristen?
you're getting.
Right now, we have actually 12 defibrillators that the officers bring on the road with them for any squad calls or cardiac arrest, if they can apply them. A lifespan of a defibrillator is about 5 years. We have ones that are 10 years old. So we need to have some replaced. We have 2 out of the 12 that are no longer working, can't fix them, can't use them, their lifespan is gone. So we're asking to buy 5 new defibrillators to replace 5 old ones that are just out of service at this point.
And I've personally witnessed incidents, the police are the first ones there.
That's correct.
And so, in general. So, yeah, I don't think we should get cheap there.
No, I agree. That's why we have, actually, you said the ESU unit, I mean, they try their best, but I think sometimes with the squad situation, the police are always there. And to have, that's a piece of equipment that's, I mean, life-saving, actually what it means. I mean, it really is.
On the emergency lighting, the LED flashing lights on top of the car, I know I'm going to get a chuckle out of this, but when I go by those cars, it's blinding. I know you guys like the safety of that, but at night, it's difficult.
But that's the
I
whole
think
point
it's
of it.
hazardous. It's because I can't see the oncoming car as well. Please consider getting dimmer lights.
Well, just to expand on that
Sure.
point,
Would
I
that be a
remember
purchase
once
order?
I was going home on South Middlebush Road, and there was some kind of police activity, I forget what it was, and the thing is, the officer had gotten out of the car, but between the headlights and the flashing lights, it was very difficult to see him. It can be real danger for the officer if an oncoming driver can't see them because they're blinded by the lights. So it's more, the officers have to be aware of that.
That's why actually we park the cars at a certain angle on a motor vehicle stop, so it protects them going in. But no, you're right, and that they, I mean, we try to balance it, but unfortunately, most people drive by, and everybody, human nature wants to look. So we want to give them enough warning that, to be cautious.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the good point is, of the bright lights is you see it from a long ways off, particularly on South Middlebush.
So have we reviewed all of the capital requests, non-vehicles and vehicles related for the police department, or we have
No.
more?
One more.
No,
One more.
number 8 is The message sign and radar sign.
Do the Panasonic, we have to do them.
Want to do the tough books?
Top books,
Oh,
Okay, number
number
5.
5,
oh, yes.
like we spoke about in
Yes.
financial oversight.
Okay,
Yeah,
go right ahead.
We're asking for, we'll do the signboard last. We're asking for 12 of the tough book computers, that's the in-car computers that we use. Obviously, they're not related to the cars, so just because you're going to allow us to get 9 cars doesn't mean we need the computers. Computer lifespan is about 4 years tops. It's just the way our warranty is. After 3 years, we have warranties. After that, if it's not part of a maintenance agreement, it's very expensive to fix. You know, it's the way technology is. They make them bigger, better, and they don't have the parts, and they won't replace them once the warranty's out. They won't fix them. They can't fix them. So what we're looking to do is we have some computers that are here since 2007, which is going on year 6. We can't fix them anymore. They won't even take them to try. Panasonic won't. So the 12 that we're asking for to replace them, they're also for the new vehicles that we're going to get.
And you know, with technology, now the officers have capability, with capability, less serious calls, they could be sent via the computer, they could do their reports on them. So with technology, keeping up with the times, that's the way everything's going. So that's an essential, very essential tool.
Okay, and number 8 is the last one?
Yes, that is the basic combination of the traffic message sign and a portable radar sign. Most of the complaints we get, obviously, are traffic-related. As you well know about the Magnolia Road, these are speeding stop signs, school bus, people passing school buses. So what we did, we have a message board sign. You might have seen it up around the 4th of July. It has the messages on it. It's usually used for the high school with prom or the promenade. It gives messages. The one that we looked up, because of all the problems we've been having on streets with the radar and the speeding, is our traffic unit priced out a message sign. It'll do the same thing. It's capable of leaving messages and warning any kind of announcements or the click it or ticket, but it also does radar. It'll also put a speed up on it. So when people we can put it out wherever we want, basically, on any street, in a development, wherever, any complaints are coming in, and the chief wants us to put it. And that way, that's a deterrent right there with the radar, with the speed, people actually seeing their speed. The second part of that 25,000 is a portable post sign, where it's another your speed is, but it actually goes up and it's portable. We can put it on a post and put it on Magnolia. The next day, it can go over to Winston Drive. The next day, it can go down off of Claremont somewhere. So I think that would be very helpful for us to kind of hit a lot of areas that citizens are complaining about with speeding. And I think that's a big deterrent. So I think that's a definite, and that is portable. It can go up and down very quickly.
And on a lighter note, after that being up for 3 days and you speed and you get a ticket, you shouldn't have no one to blame but yourself.
I just had
Right there, and it showed every day.
They work.
Yeah, they work.
I have a quick thought. I never thought of this until just now. Does it keep the data somewhere so you get some idea of knowing what kind of speeds people had been traveling at?
It doesn't, like a download kind of?
Yeah. No,
That's a
okay.
different function with a different piece of equipment.
Okay.
And more money.
Yes.
A lot more money,
Yeah, probably.
a lot more.
Kind of I guess for Mr. Vornlock, our manager, does the police cars, the vehicles, is Somerset County Improvement Authority, we're paying like a third a year for 3 years,
That's correct.
and the others might be 5% for this year, and the rest?
The proposal this year would be to bond capital. In many of these cases, these pieces of equipment can be purchased through the Improvement Authority. The police cars are generally 3 years. The SUVs can be up to 5 years. It's their useful life is what the payments are based on. Likewise, the emergency equipment generally is purchased through the Improvement Authority. And the tough books, the server, you'll hear on Thursday, they can be bundled with an IT bond. They can be purchased through the Improvement Authority. It'll be a matter of which direction we feel is appropriate.
Okay, so
Every one of those could be purchased through the Improvement Authority or could be bonded as part of a general bond
Okay. And you'll discuss the specifics?
on Thursday.
Thinking about it.
Good,
Okay.
thanks.
Would it,
Thanks.
would it help to know what the interest rate differential is between the two?
But, and it will, and I think that it'll probably be more beneficial to council if we discuss how we're going to fund these capital projects when we discuss the capital projects as a whole on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be all together. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Regan?
So the only other thing I recall on the message sign and the radar sign, that this sign has a significant feature where you can rotate the sign, so you don't have to fight with placing it in the road. You can easily place it and then turn the sign to the direction of
Sure.
the traffic,
It's
correct?
got a hydraulic system to it.
Right, which is a significant improvement over the one.
Over having to back it in, pull out, back it in, pull out. This one is basically, you can put it wherever you want.
Very good.
Yeah, so I'd like to keep that because number one complaint I get from people is speeding, so this would help us with that. And also in Sandy, it's a sign we can put up and say, water available, something like that.
Absolutely.
Now, Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
There-
Councilman Kramer?
There are two other Capitol Police, actually four other under Public Safety Building. Is that, do we cover that somewhere else or we cover that now?
That'll be covered under Public Works. That's part of Building and Grounds, not the Police
Okay.
Department.
Okay, fine.
Okay, and did we have anything else on the operating budget from council?
No, just one comment.
Okay, yeah, Councilman
We-
Prasad?
Many years ago, we went around on Magnolia, and the quote I got was $250,000 for putting some kind of a sign or, a traffic sign or even a traffic study, to put speed breakers and all kinds of things. This was about 4 years ago that we had tried to do something for the speeders on Magnolia.
There's been a number of, I can go back that far, and as it relates to Magnolia.
No, it was you.
I'm sure it was. And it was longer than 4 years ago, if it was me, though, that making those discussions, having those discussions. There were a number of different alterations to Magnolia Road that had been discussed over time.
Right.
Some of them could have been as much as $250,000. I think what you're specifically recalling, though, was there was a request for a traffic signal at the intersection of DeMott Lane and Magnolia Road.
Yeah.
That would have cost about $250,000. However, the warrants weren't there to put in a traffic signal based on volume.
Right.
So that I believe, is what you're recalling.
Yeah. So this is a lot cheaper.
Mr. Mayor, I have one quick
Yes,
question.
Councilman Wright, please.
Chief, got one question.
Sure, sir.
What is the stipend for?
Microphone on?
The what?
The stipend?
Do you want to give a page number?
The stipend
On the salaries.
on the
Oh,
salary?
you're gonna have to, I don't know.
What page are you in?
It's probably gonna be the college stipend, right?
There's a number of
Oh, the
different
last
stipends
stipends.
that police officers receive contractually. Some stipends are for their position as detective or in the Traffic Safety Bureau, receive 3.5% stipends. There are also stipends for college degrees.
Okay, so if we give a stipend for college degrees, are we giving that stipend every year, or is that a one-year stop?
Every year,
Every year.
contractually, they receive the stipend for having the degree.
And what happened was, it used to be, up to last contract, the town used to pay them to get their degree or to get the stipend. Last negotiation, when you guys negotiated with the unions, you took away they choose one or the other. So you're not paying both anymore. Per the contract, they either get the stipend or they get the credits paid for it, but they don't get both anymore. They just get one.
So I'm paying you to get a degree, no, excuse me, I'm paying you for having a degree that you got 20 years ago.
Officers receive a
Officers
stipend for having a college degree
degree.
annually, yes.
Yes.
For keeps.
Every year, contractually, they receive a stipend for having a college degree.
And you got to remember, for promotion at certain ranks, you need a degree, too.
So
Let me just, go ahead.
I was just going to offer
Councilman Regan? Go ahead.
that as what was with the chief and Mr. Vornlock said, This is actually part of a contract negotiation, so.
It's a done deal.
Relative to this budget,
Yeah,
there's really no impact
I
we can
just
have
didn't know-
upon it.
understand it, and
Yeah. Yes, but what you said is yes.
Councilman Kramer?
So I see you have one vacancy that you're,
Yes.
and
In the middle of,
you expect to fill that.
very soon.
And then you're expecting to promote a sergeant?
Yes.
Someone to sergeant?
Yes.
Is that 16,500 a full year's amount or?
Yes,
or-
full
or-
year's amount.
So we'll actually probably have a little
It'll be
left
less,
over.
yes, it'll be
Yeah.
less.
Okay. And same with the vacancy will be less than the full amount. Okay.
Okay. Anything else you have?
No, I'd just like to
Counsel?
thank council for, and the mayor for your continued support. We appreciate it. And hopefully it'll be another good year this year. Crime will go down.
Yeah.
And we appreciate all that
Appreciate
you
it.
do.
Thank you, thank you very
We
much.
we look forward to the accreditation.
Yeah.
That'll be a nice
Oh,
ceremony.
yes.
It'll be a very nice
We
ceremony.
should have some cake and ice cream, too.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're going to ask them
Out
for an
of-
extra
out of
certificate
the
so you can
police
put it up.
budget.
Out of the PBA and SOA coffers, that'd be nice.
I'll get them to pay for it.
I like the syrup that forms the crust on it.
Okay. Chief, Lieutenant, that's it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Okay.
night.
Next, we have the second of our department hearings, which is fire prevention. Mr. John House, our fire prevention director.
Direct counsel to page 242 in your book. 242 begins the salary spreadsheet for fire prevention, followed by their OE budget.
Mr. House, welcome.
Welcome and thank you, council.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Andrew Berardo, the deputy director, is handing out the budget review for the council. Just a couple of quick comments for you. Really, it's just page 2 and 3. The last column is the 2012 numbers. Happy to report that we had the highest number of inspections in 2012. The staff worked very hard during the year. We increased in a number of areas. The one area that we didn't increase in, which unfortunately hurts us a little bit, is our revenue is slightly down. It's about $9,000 less than the previous year. Part of that is we had a number of businesses that didn't pay their fees in 2012. We're actually, I've already started correcting that and going after them to make sure they pay their money. So, and we've already done, a number of them have paid in January and February, and we'll continue to deal with that. The other thing that we did was, and at the time I didn't realize the effect that this was going to have, about $5,000 in fees. Lack of a better term, I'll say we lost, because what we did was, in looking at some of our inspection areas, we had like a large complex, and I'll use, for example, the Clyde Road office condos, where we're at the corner of Hamilton and Clyde Road. We were sending our inspectors there a number of different months, going in and doing some of the inspections this month, some, the following month. And what we did is we sent in 2011, we actually did this in 2011, we sent all the businesses in that complex a letter advising them that we were moving all their inspections to the month of April, so that when the inspector went there, he was more efficient in his time, spending his time there. He would only have to go there, during that month and wasn't going back and forth. What we did was anybody that had less than 9 months of a permit in there, we waived their fee for that year, and because we moved them. We didn't feel it was right to bill somebody twice in a year because I would be getting the complaint and you would be getting the complaint. We did that in a number of areas in 2011 and 12, and it hurt our revenue a little bit. So I don't anticipate that continuing, but that is another reason why we lost some of our revenue. The rest of the pages are just the graphs that I typically give you, outlining the same information just in a different format. I don't know if on the operating budget, we asked for a slight increase over 2011. In 2011, our operating budget was $6,600. We're asking for a slight increase to $7,300 approximately. We just outlined all of our expenses a little more for the board and or for the council, and that's where we're falling. So I don't know if you guys have questions.
Where does that match up with what I'm looking for?
Should be under his,
Is that on the admin sheet?
247.
either on the admin sheet, correct, which reflects 6660 from 2012 appropriation and requested is 7390. So that's the slight increase on page 246. 246 at the bottom, right. And I just, want to stress to council, when you look at this number, you might wonder how the fire prevention office can function on what seems to be a relatively small number for their other expenses. They have not donated money towards the cause. John, could you just discuss the penalty trust and how you purchase the larger amount of your equipment that's necessary to do your job?
Sure. As the council knows, there's a penalty trust account. When we issue a penalty, the money has to go into a trust that is then used for operating the department. So probably 60% of our operating comes out of that account.
I noticed that essentially all of the increases in printing and binding, what are you doing that requires that increase?
One of the things that that the town manager, when he was talking about the budget, asked us to look at our actual expenses and come up with actual numbers. A number of those things we always have, but sometimes weren't charged to printing. They were charged out of that penalty trust or another line item, depending on, where we were. There's basically 4 items that we use on a regular basis for printing. One is our NFPA code subscription, which is $855. That's probably, because I'm looking to charge that to printing now, that's an example of something that I may or may not have charged to the penalty trust. The other is the New Jersey Register, which is $211. The Title 40 subscription, which is only $23, and then our fire code subscription. That totals out to $1,330. That's an actual number. Those figures are actual figures that we use every single year, and that.
I would think those would be better described under books and publications, Printing and binding, I would think, would be if you had to print up stuff to give out to businesses, that would be printing and binding, but these subscriptions, I would think books and publications. I mean, I know this is totally technical detail, but if we got a breakdown, we might as well make it accurate.
Okay, that's where I always have charged it. I mean, if we want to move it to that other category, I have no problem doing that.
It would just make the description more accurate.
Okay.
Who knows what somebody in the DCA might fasten on?
I'm going to take this opportunity, John raised a point. When all the department heads were given direction on preparation of their OE budgets this year, one of the things that I stressed to them, among many things that I stressed to them, was to please budget appropriately. And by that, what I mean is, if historically you have spent a certain amount of money for a certain service or material, and that money was not in the appropriate line in the budget, that it should be moved, this would be the year that we would make that opportunity. And Councilman, you're absolutely right, that's books and publications, and that can be moved into that line. But what you're going to see as department heads come forward is that there's been a shift of money from one line to another so that it's under the appropriate line, so that what we don't do, which is what DCA does not like us to do, is overcharge, and our auditor really doesn't like it, is to overcharge a line simply because it doesn't overcharge the budget as a whole. So what we're going to try to do is hold department heads accountable down to the line, as opposed to the overall budget, because they should be putting the appropriate amount of money in each line that they feel is necessary to run their operation for a year. So that's what John is referring to when he referenced the fact that I gave them direction to put it where it belongs.
So Mr. Mayor.
Oh, no, Councilman Kramer, go ahead, please.
You had indicated your inspections were down. You have a vacant position, which we had given you. And
Yeah,
you're
inspections are actually up for the year.
Then I'm misreading these graphs.
Page 2, top line inspections, I believe, is
All right,
one.
well, he's looking at the graph, I think.
No, you're looking at the graph.
If you're looking at page 5, correct?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You know what I was doing? I was looking at revenue. And
Revenue
you would explain
is
that.
down, yes.
Right, okay. So you're getting another inspector this year, and
Correct,
we'll hopefully see it go up even more.
exactly.
Okay. And then my other comment was, just this last, pardon? No, we voted to add a position. They actually requested 2. We said, well, and with the idea that it can increase revenue, pay for itself, we said, well, add 1. We'll see how that goes and talk about another one later. We had passed that a while ago. And then the other comment was, just an aside, this past week, there was an accident in front of Stagehouse. I happened to have been one of the first people there, and very soon thereafter, fire prevention was there, and I was really glad to see you guys. And your response was very quick. This was after 5 o'clock, and they were there like magic. So I was glad to see you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And the other things you do.
Did you want a question?
No, Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yeah, I just wanted to get some sense of where are the increased inspections. Commercial inspections seems to have gone up considerably from previous years. The smoke detector inspections have gone
They
up?
actually went up also. We're hoping that's going to end. That's on page 7 and
Yeah.
page 8.
Yeah,
We do smoke detector inspections anytime there's a resale or a lease of a 1- and 2-family dwelling.
okay.
And if you look there, you see the last 4 years on page 7, we went up a little over 100 from 2011.
Yeah,
And that trend is continuing the first 2 months of this year, so we're.
So is that new construction, some of the new things, or what, it's,
This isn't new
This is not.
construction.
This is-
This is resales. These are
Resales.
existing homes that are selling or leasing.
okay,
So we're,
it's interesting.
you
yeah.
know, if you look at the page 8, that actually shows the graph for a 10-year period there. Well, I don't know if we're ever gonna get back to the 2004 and 5 timeframe, but you could see it went down and it has started to level off, and now it's going back up. So we're hoping, and from all indications, that's what the economy they're saying is happening. So as that goes up, our
So we have
income-
another leading indicator of what's happening in the economy based on inspections.
Yeah.
Interesting. We may want to sell that data and help with the
Absolutely.
people making investments. Thank you.
It's definitely an indication that resale of homes in town is on the increase.
Yeah.
And because every home that is resold has to have that inspection.
Right.
So, and if you look, I mean, we went from a high in 2005 of 1,417 to a low in 2011 of 728, and nearly 50% decrease. So now we're hopefully going to start to climb back out of this
Great,
mess that we're in.
great. Thank you.
And Mr. House, I guess the reason for a new inspector is that we have more commercial enterprises and
Correct. We've.
more
we're at
more
the-
residential units over the last several years. Am I-
Yep, we have,
might
we
that be
have a number of new construction that has taken place in the last few years. Again, it was 2007 was the last time we made any increase in the department, and a number of projects have already come online, and we have a number continuing, including all of the multiple family dwelling units that we have that are being built down in, Franklin Boulevard and all there.
Okay, and just so I have the concept right, it'd be adding one full line, and the part-timers would be about the same as before?
Yeah, right now, we're keeping the part-timers at the.
Those kind of
the
hours,
level,
right?
Right.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Councilman Regan.
Since John is here, Mr. House is here, just as we talked about with the police, I just basically want to talk briefly about the pickup truck request for capital. This is done because of the position we approved last year that's being hired. This pickup truck is going to be available for that new staff person to be allocated for it. So the recommendation from Finance Oversight is to support that request.
Okay, good point, thanks. Okay, anything else?
Just where on your revenue is the money we get from the fire departments or districts?
That's,
whatever?
if you look at page 3, if you look down at the revenue columns, you'll see their shared services with the fire district. That started in 2010. And then it was in 2011 and 2012.
Okay, and just for the public's knowledge, our fire districts donate, for lack of a better word, or give money to help pay for fire prevention, because fire prevention during the day, our volunteer fire department volunteers often work in other towns, so our first responders for fire, as they were the other night, are often fire prevention, and that's a tremendous service to the town, helps us forestall getting a paid fire service, which would cost millions, and that's an important function of fire prevention.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Regan.
Just to follow up on the councilman's comments, because they're very appropriate and a critical point to the public. Like, this is actually a win-win for both, for the fire departments the houses generally because of the issue with not having enough volunteers during the day, the residents would be at a higher risk. The fact that we have and provide this service as part of fire prevention, and they basically pay or contribute to that, it's definitely very critical for public safety here in town. So as Councilman Kramer pointed out, it also defers us from looking at a need to go to a paid day department, but it also helps out the departments themselves because of the troubles that we have in this day and age with getting volunteers during the day. So I just wanted to follow up on the councilman's comments.
Okay. Is it Deputy Mayor Sherman?
No, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay. Nothing else? Thank you very much. I hope, Mr. House, you don't have too long of a trip to get home or anything.
No, I think Andrew's got longer. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
He's your next door neighbor.
The next on your agenda is the municipal court, and it is page 423.
Okay, and
423 starts the salary
Feel like bingo.
spreadsheet, and then followed by the OE.
And our court administrator, Ms. Damaris Santiago. Thank you. Welcome,
Good
Ms.
evening.
Santiago.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Damaris Santiago. I am the Municipal Court Administrator at the Franklin Municipal Court. I have 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time, and it's been a very challenging last year, and we're working very hard this year, the last 2 months, because our tickets have increased a great deal. I would say 70%. I mean, in 1 week alone, close to 400 tickets, where I have 2 girls working on entering data entry now. And it's just been extremely busy, especially our phones. It's just a little crazy, but we're dealing with it. We're working very hard to get back to people. We get a lot of complaints about our phones, but we are doing the best that we can. We get a lot of voicemail. It's not just during the week. It looks like they call on the weekend. Me alone, I have to follow up with sometimes 100 voicemails in one day. And on a Thursday when we have court, we can't possibly answer the phones because we have court all day. And we do the best to try at the end of the day to return some calls and work on it on Friday. But we're doing the best that we can.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Is there any sense, is there any kind of automated message that can be prepared? Are there repetitive questions, like what are the hours, or what is your location?
Oh, yeah, we have that. We have...
So, and they can push a button to get...
Well, yes. Yes, we do have that. For the address, for the fax number, for the website, court hours, we have all that information, but everybody's calling because they want to come to court to get their points reduced, and they're pleading not guilty, and a lot of the times we have them come in on a first appearance just to try and not create a lot of overtime for, officers, because I know that had been an issue at one time. And it's just a high volume of calls.
And I just guess I want to understand what the calls are asking. They've gotten a notice in writing saying to appear in court?
They actually get a summons that gives them an assigned court date.
Right.
So the summons will indicate call 7 days prior to the court date to enter a not guilty plea. So that's something
And they have to speak to a person in order to do that? Is there any way to automate that? No. Okay.
Okay. And that's actually a good point, and you're shaking your head no. There's no online, press this to plead not guilty, enter your summons number?
You actually have to speak to a human being.
Yeah.
You're entering a plea. You're entering a
Okay.
formal plea to a charge. You need to enter your plea.
So does it make any sense to have a separate number and one person assigned to that, and that's their entire job?
We would need to hire another person just for that job.
Well, you've already, I'm assuming it would be the same pool of people that you have because you're handling it now, but I just don't know what other calls you get. I didn't realize every single person who gets a ticket now has to call you.
We get inquiries from state agency, from insurance companies, from defendants, who gets the ticket, lawyers, other courts for dispositions,
Okay.
things like that.
All right.
So if I'm following up, again, a good point. So if you can't answer the phone, there's a voice, because I never called there, that
It
says,
goes to voicemail.
okay, press 1 if you want to know the hours. Press 2 if you want to know.
Yes.
Okay. It's, okay, that's an issue. Do you know?
Press 3 if you want to plead guilty. I mean, no, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, if it's a payable ticket, they go on the website and it gives them the amount. They can pay on the website, mail in the payment, or come in person to the office to pay.
So if they want to plead guilty, they can just do that?
If it's a payable ticket, yes.
Okay. Except if something.
But a lot of
There
people.
are summonses that are mandatory court appearance
Yes.
required. And that's what, when Damaris is talking about payable tickets, there are offenses that one can commit where you can simply plead guilty and either mail in your fine or pay it online. However, there are other offenses that require a court appearance. It's those court appearance required summonses, whether they be motor vehicle or criminal
Right.
charges, that require the notice of 7 days, and that's what
Correct.
Damaris is speaking about entering a plea
Right.
on the phone.
I'm just wondering, I'm always for finding out what other communities are doing and how it's being handled elsewhere rather than inventing the wheel ourselves.
I think the number one complaint from municipal court administrators is the volume of phone calls. I've spoken to actually not
Okay.
only Damaris, but others.
Okay, it's no different.
No, it is no different, be it Bridgewater, New Brunswick, Franklin, or Hillsborough, or anywhere else. There's a very, very high volume of phone calls that come in, and unfortunately, at certain times, specifically when court is in session, the staff is busy taking care of all of the people who are there for court, and unfortunately, those phone calls oftentimes go to voicemail and need to be followed up the following day.
Just so I understand, if we should be passing this to the administration or red tape, is that a good rule, or is that too cumbersome that they should be able to do it, online or email or something such as that?
Do what, Mayor? I'm
That,
sorry.
that they have to speak to a person to make a plea?
I think that by law, there are certain requirements, and when you enter a plea, you need to speak with a person. I mean, it's something that there needs to be a discussion between someone in Damaris's office and
you
the
think
person
there should be a
who's entering the
discussion?
plea. Yeah.
Okay, because people aren't aware, okay.
It's probably a matter of state law
Law,
that
yeah.
we couldn't change.
Right, because you could have somebody call in and enter a not, like,
You wouldn't want that.
Yes.
forge. So, well, I mean, they could also call, I guess, but anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any questions about Damaris's salary budget or Damaris's OE budget? Damaris shows basically a static salary budget as far as personnel is concerned. I know, not to add confusion, in the salary spreadsheet, there's one where there's no name. That's not a vacancy. That's just simply, for whatever reason, that employee's name was not included on the spreadsheet. There is an employee that fills that spot now. So there's no additional personnel there, and I believe Damaris's OE budget shows a slight decrease of about $400 from last year's OE budget.
Excuse me, Mr.
Councilman
Mayor.
Regan?
The revenue generated when they pay the ticket, where does that go into?
In the revenue, on
Okay.
the rev, yeah, it's on the revenue side.
Yeah.
On the revenue sheet in the very beginning of section tab 1 is the revenue.
Damaris, do you know what your revenue is for? Because I would assume, given that the tickets are in an increase, you projected a increase in revenue?
Well, for
No,
the,
can't.
and actually, that's
Oh, this
not,
is done
that's
at-
not the department head that does that, and that's not,
Right, this is off of, you can only do what you did last year, right? One of those rules.
that's
Yeah.
correct. That's one of those
Yep,
lines
okay.
of revenue.
Sometimes I forget.
So if you notice, it's actually 08-110 is the code on the revenue budget, and it shows the municipal court is projected to have a $400,000 budget, which is a $100,000 increase over last year's projected revenue for the
What
court.
page are you on?
I am on page 1.
Of tab.
Back to
In the very
talking
beginning,
about the revenues. I
Yeah.
went to a revenue question.
in the very beginning on page 1 in the revenue report.
And just so it's clear to council, and you can expand on this, we don't get all of the revenue of a ticket. The state, it's on speed.
Well, that's our revenue.
Most of it.
This is our revenue that's generated, that goes to Franklin Township from the court. There is additional revenue generated by the municipal court that goes to the county and goes to the state of New Jersey.
Now here, also picking up on what Councilman Kramer kind of said, and I think we heard about this in financial oversight. Depending on the type of ticket, we could get all of it, we could get some percent, the state, something else, they get another one. Does someone in your office have to sit and calculate every little ticket?
No, that gets broken down in the computer automatically. We don't have to do that manually.
Okay, so you enter the
We
code
enter
number, the
the-
ticket, and,
Yes.
okay. All right, it seemed cumbersome, but I guess you
Mhm.
got it.
We should write an ordinance that we get to keep all the revenue and not give any to the state. You think that would last long?
I don't think it would last long. I'm not opposed to it. However, I don't think the state of New Jersey would appreciate
And
it.
just thinking outside the box.
Yeah, very good.
Mayor's
Okay.
friends
Oops.
will come and visit us.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate the support.
Okay, anything else for Ms. Santiago? Unless either one of you have something more for us?
That's it.
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have the fourth one, tax collector. Ms. Carol Langone, who is our tax collector.
And you can find tax collection at page 109,
Oh, thank you.
109.
Oh, good evening. Hi.
Good evening. Presently, my staff is fully filled. Last year, we hired a deputy collector, and she's working out wonderfully. I had put in part of my lines of business. In 2011, I had to place over 700 tax liens, and last year I dropped it down to less than half, which was a great help having the deputy around so that I could enforce the collection before going to sale. Right now, because we're on a calendar year, I have been able to lower the operating expense under the printing and binding section line item, because now I only have to mail out tax bills once a year. And I just recently have been thinking about it. Regarding the homestead rebate, I'm generally expected to send out a revised bill for the particular quarter that the state is giving the rebate on. And it was expected to happen this May, but I don't believe it's going to happen. At least, I don't have anything in writing saying it won't, but it's getting close to the due date. So if it does take place in the August quarter, I'm liable to get away without sending a revised quarterly bill and just end up one billing for the entire year and have everything all wrapped up in the one mailing. So that, you know, some of those, the purchasing of supplies for the additional bill has already taken place, but postage hasn't been spent. So things in other areas of, not my budget, but in the overall township budget can be saved just in that alone.
No, I'm sorry, I know you just said it, but I didn't grasp it all. Why would you be able to send only one budget, one mailing this
mailing?
year?
Well, For the first time last year, I mailed out tax bills to cover the entire year.
Okay, for the calendar year.
Right. Well,
Okay.
it's third and fourth quarter of 12, first and second of 13. That's the way and then once the budget's adopted and the rate struck, then I can do a full year mailing, but it's a fiscal year mailing tape, I'm doing the balance of the current year and the first 6 months of the preliminary. But with the homestead rebate, when the state decides what quarter they're going to send the township the money for each particular property, I then have to, who's entitled to the rebate, I have to send a revised quarterly bill just to show what the rebate is, so that they don't overpay their taxes.
Just to those people?
Yeah, but there's 6,000.
Okay. Oh, okay, significant. All right.
Yeah, so I was expecting to have to do it this May, but because the state hasn't determined which quarter it's going to happen on, and it's
Yeah.
getting so close to May, it's presumed it's going to take place in August, when my initial
heard
bill
you.
usually goes out, so.
It's been reported that one of the things the governor is doing to balance the budget is postponing the payment of homestead tax rebates, so.
Yeah, we haven't received anything in writing
Well,
from.
budget hasn't been passed.
Yeah, but I think this year on the data, well, let's see, I have under the line item 028, I have the CityNet annual maintenance, which is now in my, it's been paid for in the past, but now it's sitting in a separate sub-account where it belongs. And the only other, our post office box is increasing, so that went up slightly. And I've added the deputy to cover her meetings to attend with myself and to renew her tax collector certificate.
Are there any questions regarding Carol's OE budget or salary budget? I think it's pretty straightforward, and she showed a significant decrease in her OE budget, about $10,400 decrease, obviously attributable primarily to the need to only do one mailing as far as our tax bills are concerned. And like Carol said, later today, actually, when we discuss the purchasing budget, that's where postage lives. And while we'll see a slight increase in postage when we get there, in the grand scheme of things, that increase would have been much larger if we had to continue to do our tax billing the way we did previously under the fiscal year budget. The reason our postage went up this year is because postage went up.
If the homestead rebate were always August, would you always have only one bill per year, one mailing per year?
Yeah, unless we decide, unless the tax rate wasn't struck or something held up the mailing of our, I'm able to estimate third quarter, and I've done it once before, but generally, yeah, it would just require one mailing. If it would make sense to put it on the August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I doubt the governor can advance it again next year. He'd be paying it out twice in 1 year.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay,
Yeah.
Councilman Prasad.
Should we consider electronic billing in any way, having an email database of tax payers where we don't want to have to mail it and you just email them?
Oh, instead of mailing an actual tax bill?
Yeah, and you could have a return receipt requested or something like that, acknowledgement?
Well, for me to provide a receipt and return it to each one of...
No, I'm saying it's electronically. If it's been opened, it gives you a receipt back. Instead of regular mailing.
Not everybody has email.
But I'm going
we would have
to interject
just saying, yeah.
one sentence too. from my bank, they say to me, do you want an electronic bank statement or do you want it on paper? Is that kind of what you think?
I
people
think
do?
in this particular case, understand that our mailing is generated from the tax books. So what it would require is someone to go in and manually remove every single person who opted for the email. And while I think that if we looked at it from a cost-benefit analysis point of view here, that it would probably cost us more in salary to have someone do the individual removal. We don't generate our mailing list. That comes from the tax list, which comes from Vital, which is the computer system, which comes from the county tax office, not from us. So the mailing itself is a bulk mailing generated from a computer system now that we don't have the ability to go in and say, all right, well, this person has opted for email and this person has opted for mailings. And remember that we have about 28,000 properties that have to get a tax bill. So it would probably occupy one employee just in maintaining that separate database outside of what we currently use to do the tax bill mailings.
Well, I'm required to mail a tax bill, and there's certain
Okay.
information that has to be on the tax bill. But-
Right,
Okay.
Yeah.
it is. Let's move on.
Yeah.
No, but that was a good point, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a thought. But can we look at bulk mailing rates from the post office?
I already utilize it.
Okay.
Sure you
All right.
do, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, any other
Good.
questions?
okay. Ms.
Thanks, Carol.
Langone, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We next have,
Next will be purchasing, as I said, which is Joyce Miller, and I think that if I can flip real quickly to our, you will find purchasing on page 8 in the beginning of section number 1, page 8.
Ms. Miller, welcome.
I'm sorry.
No,
Did I say
that's
page
you.
8? I correct that. Page 8 is my budget.
Which we've already removed.
We did we? Thank you.
Just cut down.
Makes spending
Yeah,
that much
yeah.
easier when you don't have a budget.
Actually, it's true. There was one.
Purchasing would be on page 18, I'm sorry, 18. As you can see, the salary budget has one of our largest departments in the town. One. This is Joyce Miller, and it is fully staffed at present. And so I turn this over to the very capable Mrs. Miller.
Short and sweet. Most of the budget.
Is that on?
Now I'm on. Okay. Most of this budget, 90% of my budget depends on what the other people in the other departments need. Postage has been reduced by 200. As Carol said, it might have been able to be reduced more. Well, it's a wait and see. It's a guess, we presume. The postage went up. There's no way of knowing. I have to rely on what the other departments need. You go on to printing and binding, receipt books used by all the departments, purchase order forms. The only thing I get in there is some envelopes for myself once in a while. Maintenance of other equipment. This 026 and 029, just as minute of explanation, these are postage machine, the postage machine, certified mailing program, et cetera, and the leasing of our copiers used by all the departments. We used to take a look at the two. It looks like one has jumped and the other one hasn't. This is just a combination and putting it where it all belongs. It used to be the postage machine. We used to throw the rental into one and the lease of the equipment into the other, and you know what I'm saying? Let's get it all together and throw it into one.
Okay.
And so if you add the two together, nothing too much has changed. 029 also has $15,000 contingency for the newsletter, so that the Clean Communities Fund, if it would not come through, we would have a little extra money in there.
I just want
Yeah.
to interject right here, that what Joyce just said is something that actually I wanted to discuss with council. Later on in the evening, we'll get to my budget, and we'll use the word contingency again. And while we did reduce in my budget the contingency from 2012 to 2013, what has historically happened as it relates to the newsletter is Joyce has included that $15,000 in her budget in the event that we were not able to use Clean Communities money because we didn't receive it. There could be some discussion as to whether or not we need to budget that $15,000 in Joyce's OE budget. In the event that for some reason, and I don't anticipate that happening this year, if we were not to receive the Clean Communities money to cover the cost of the newsletter, we could in fact use the money from the manager's budget to do that. So that's something that I'm considering as we look at the OE budgets after budget hearings. And you know, if you have feedback, I certainly would be anxious to hear that.
Is there a
as it
reason
relates.
that would be better out of your budget than hers?
It would be $15,000 less overall. I mean, I would not alter my OE budget, but then what I'm saying is that there's a risk reward here in it that there's $15,000 currently in her budget that is there solely as a contingency in the event that we didn't receive a grant, which we've received annually year after year after year after year after year, and I don't anticipate that happening. But there would be two things that could happen if we didn't receive that Clean Communities funding. One, we would not have a newsletter. That's a possibility. Or two, we would pay for it out of a larger contingency that was intended, I believe, by council and the former manager, two behind me, that we would create this contingency and remove those from the individual budgets and departments. This one has continued. Okay. So I guess that's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Is the purpose of my contingency was to cover things like that, if that's what council saw fit.
Yeah.
Should the regular funding fall through.
We did have that philosophy a couple years ago. We put all the contingencies in the manager's budget.
Right.
Right, you're right.
So,
Except for this one.
Except for that one, okay.
so one thought would be to split the difference, take it out of hers and put half of it in yours and see how it goes for a little while.
And we could certainly do half, and that would, kind of hedge the potential expense should the grant fall through.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
I mean, that's one of 9.
That's one of 9. No, I understand. I'm throwing this out there because once you're done with these hearings, then I take this budget and I begin to look at where I think we can spare some off.
Yeah.
And this is one of the places that I've identified that I wanted to bring to your attention.
Councilman Regan.
Yeah, my suggestion is do whatever gives you the greatest flexibility.
Fine.
That's allowed by the law.
Fine.
Councilman Chase.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No,
And
that's
Deputy
all
Mayor
right, that's fine.
Sherman.
Well, I just wish we could go back to having 4 newsletters a year, because that's partly because the Environmental Commission generates quite a bit of text for the newsletter, and you probably have trouble stuffing it all in, and all of the things that you have. And I want to commend you again for your service as secretary to the Cable TV Committee.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
You're very much appreciated.
You're very kind. Thank you.
The contingency, if it is not used, what happens to it?
It just returns back
To the general?
to the general.
Funding?
Yes.
And does it get used?
Oh, it's along with, many other things, the money that we don't spend, that we budget for, just simply returns to the fund reserve. That it's just a never-ending cycle.
Okay.
We don't spend everything that we budget.
Right.
Thankfully, that's the goal here. So that whatever we don't spend returns to the fund reserve, and we start the process all over again the next year.
Councilman
But we tax for it.
We do, and that's why we try to be fiscally prudent as far as what we budget affects what we tax.
So maximum flexibility actually is ambiguous here, because if it's, some of it's in the manager's budget, then that can be flexible to anything.
Correct.
But if a greater amount is in purchasing's budget, well, then you have more money to be flexible with. So I'm not sure maximum flexibility is that definitive a direction. So I guess,
It's actually a good point. I left it that way, meaning maximum flexibility to the township's manager's judgment. That was my point.
so I differ a little here, is that we set the budget. I mean, he uses the budget, but I think, I mean, unless you want to give us a suggestion.
Well, no, it's not so much a suggestion. It is actually the manager's budget until I present it to you.
Okay.
All right, so it's my responsibility to give you a fiscally prudent budget. As I go through all of the OE budgets presented by the department heads as well as the other lines in the budget, I need to make certain decisions. What I'm saying is I come into this process of contingency budgeting
I see.
several years into us doing it. As Councilwoman Francois said, this came from 2 managers ago, the thought to move all contingencies into one line of the budget. This one particular thing has remained out, that's all.
And as I recollect, the reason why we did that, put everything into the manager's budget, was because each individual department had some added fat that, quite frankly, we wanted to have some control over. So we felt if we moved it all into one place, the manager could control all that. That was the rationale behind that at the time.
And I think that that's what's continued to happen.
Yeah.
And this is why I thought,
I'm flexible however you want to do it. but
Okay.
The thought process was that was it, basically,
Thank you.
back then. Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Miller, or anything else for her? Councilman Chase?
I know you said something about equipment repair and maintenance, but I noticed that that particular line is much increased this year.
I think that goes back to what we talked about, a realignment of lines as far as funding and individual lines. If you notice, 026 shows a significant increase, while 029, other contractual, shows a significant decrease. I think what Joyce has indicated is that is the appropriate division of the total dollar figure.
But the actual spending was 4,000 some on 026, and while it was budgeted 37,000 for 029, only 18,000 was spent.
That's where the $15,000 contingency lived.
So.
Yeah, I don't touch it if it's not needed.
And I guess that's proof that she's been fiscally responsible. It's there, it hasn't been spent, it's just, I don't know that it's appropriate that it's there.
Yeah. If it were going to be in her budget, I think other contractual items would be a better place than equipment repair and maintenance, because newsletter is not exactly equipment repair. But since we're thinking that we'll basically move it into your contingency budget, it's
Or
beside the
eliminate it
point.
altogether, we'll see.
Yeah, or move half of it to yours and cut back half of it, or whatever.
Okay.
Councilman, it's in the other contractual, 15,000, not in the equipment.
Well, but the,
But it doesn't matter.
If you look, it doesn't matter, but if you look at the workbook, which is pages 21 and beyond, what you'll find is that because of the realignment of requests, that the $15,000 is specifically spelled out on line 4 on page 26 as contingency for township newsletter. The other expenses in there are much smaller expenses as far as other contractual, with the primary costs associated with things like copy machines and postage machines included in maintenance of other equipment.
So since we're on that page, could you actually just refresh my memory what the Morris County Cooperative membership fee is?
Absolutely. They are the only co-op that charges us to participate, and it's a cooperative pricing program. So that they go out and bid, we got bulk savings, and while we belong to the state contracts and we participate in Somerset County, Morris County has some items that you can't find on the others. Even Somerset County belongs to Morris County co-op pricing.
And they pay a fee for it, okay?
I don't know if it was started by him, but certainly overseen by him now. But
One of our former township managers oversees the Morris County Co-op, John Lovell.
Oh,
he's up in Randolph.
really?
Go figure.
When I first moved there.
That was 3 managers ago.
Yes. It was.
Just in a nutshell, just briefly, is there a reason they can do better than Somerset County or others?
They just do some items that the others do not.
Okay.
Strictly municipal, where the state handles authorities and schools, and Somerset County has not quite the same definition, or sometimes they have different vehicles that the police are looking for. The police went to the Morris County. It just depends what they bid. They have some definite categories that are not met by some of the other co-ops.
So it's something that we need, basically. Is that what
We
I'm
have
hearing?
found it extremely helpful.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
Interesting. Okay, other things for Ms. Miller?
Nope.
Okay.
very much.
Thank you very much, Joyce.
If there's
Appreciate
nothing
your
else,
work.
I'd just like to thank Ms. Miller. I often will present her with what I think are clever ideas, and she will explain to me very, very calmly and politely how that would put me in jail. So I thank you for keeping myself and the town in many ways out of trouble by reminding us of how the state, maybe not so brightly and sets things up, but that's the matter of fact of the way it is. So thank you.
However, if you let him go to jail, we'll go visit him.
Yeah.
I'm sure she would come visit me.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have item number 6, construction code, for our construction code official, Mr. Vincent Lupo.
All right, we're going to
Here.
do construction code beginning salary at 170, and 171 begins the section related to Mr. Lupo's budget. Also, just, there are some capital budget requests that are included in section 4 as we move through Mr. Lupo's presentation.
Thank you. We saw an increase again this year in our income. I'd like to start by saying, first of all, that we're the only department that is self-funded. And this year, again, we had a surplus of in excess of $1 million, $1,102,000 to be exact.
Tax collection is also self-funded.
No, not. I'm sorry, I disagree. But that's okay.
All right.
Engineering does pretty well, too.
Hmm?
Council, no, we're not a profit center. Okay, go ahead.
We cost people
We're overhead.
We typically don't intend to be. Our fee schedule is on a basis with the state's fee schedule. It's just that we just happen to be that busy a town. Last year, we were the busiest town in the state in terms of dollars invested. This year, I know we're in the top 10. I don't know exactly where we've fallen again, but we've only had a drop of approximately of less than $100,000.
What do you mean by dollars invested? Number one.
Dollars invested in construction.
Okay.
That's
Amazing.
outside dollars invested in construction, not our dollars. That's
Really?
public dollars that are invested in construction in a town. We weren't the highest from the standpoint of funds, of dollars that came into our department. Jersey City was, I believe. Newark came in second. We were third.
Really?
Yeah.
Of dollars into the department?
Of dollars into the department.
Top 2, I've lived in 2 of them, just as a side note.
Okay.
We've had surpluses in 7.5 Of the 9.5 years that I've been here, total surpluses to date are approximately $6,112,000 over that 9.5 year period. When I said we self-fund, we do also pay 12% of our total revenues that come into the township for what you might consider rent. That also covers the cost of our payroll checks, so forth and so on. And we paid $150,350.07 this year to the town. We did 4,000 permits last year. We performed approximately 20,000 inspections, and our revenues were $2,593,007. We are shorthanded a little bit, so we're running into a little bit of overtime. I'm a little concerned with the fact that I've got my guys working just a few too many, in some cases, inspections. I don't want that quality of inspections to drop down. We have been approved for an additional fire inspector. We were approved originally for a half person. I did request, and I believe it's been granted, a full fire inspector. What I am trying to do, though, is make that fire inspector a multi-licensed inspector, so he could be used in other technical sections. When I say that, understand that our inspectors are all specialists. We have building inspectors, plumbing inspectors, fire and electrical inspectors. We have some of our inspectors are multi-licensed. We currently do not utilize anybody's multiple licensing. I'm the only one as a construction official who does utilize my licensing, and I am licensed in every subcode. I do believe that we're going to run at the about the same level this year as we ran last year. We got off to a huge start. We're for January and February this year, we're somewhere around $550,000 in permit fees currently. But I am figuring that's going to level off a bit. We just came up with a huge jump when we first started. As far as our agenda and budget request for 2013, we have made a number of requests. Want me to go over all these? I don't have to go over all of them? Okay. Okay. My personnel request, I think I mentioned, yeah. Well, our electrical inspector is a replacement. We do have a replacement electrical inspector. Alan Kirsch retired this year at the beginning of the year. We just interviewed, and I believe we're on the way to getting him. We hired an electrical inspector, so we're looking forward to him coming in. We've been working a lot of overtime with Barry, and I've been doing some electrical inspections. The only other inspector we're waiting to get is that fire inspector, and the fire inspector I'd like to have as a multiple licensed inspector.
But you've been approved for that position. You're just trying to fill it. Previously, yes.
Yeah, previously.
Yeah, I remember. I was on FOC then.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so you still haven't gotten that filled?
No, we haven't filled it.
Because?
Well, we were hoping for a part-timer originally. We could not find a qualified inspector part-time. Quite frankly, we interviewed a number of people. They just didn't fit into what we wanted.
So now you have a full-time position that you're trying to fill.
You know, as
so
full-time, we shouldn't have too much of a problem getting that inspector.
Okay.
Most good inspectors will work for you.
But they're not going to work part-time.
They're not going to work part-time unless they could do it in the evenings. We had a couple of very qualified people come in, but they could only work after they worked their other jobs. So.
Too bad we didn't know that at the time when we made that decision. Yeah. Okay.
We have requested 5 additional vehicles. We currently utilize, my department currently utilizes 10 vehicles with a spare. We hadn't had a new vehicle in 6 years. Last year we did get 5 new vehicles. This year we're requesting an additional 5, which would put us at 10 new vehicles, which is what we use in our department. Incidentally, the request that I made, you talked about Morris County before. This request is priced through Morris County Co-op because Morris County Co-op had the vehicle that we were looking to get. The state vehicle in the size that we wanted to get had a horrendous service problem. and they're still hanging on to it, and our DPW had suggested we try and stay with a Ford model. The Fords that we have are a little large, we want it to come down a bit, and the only one that had them was the Morris County Co-op. So we're going with Morris County Co-op on it. Okay, I'll leave the rest of them alone, right? Go to the OE budget?
Well, before you do, I know the answer to this, but, this is part of the OE budget. Sorry, well, the legal services, yeah.
That's why I just said, let's go to the OE budget, and you're reading my mind.
Yeah, that's, the OE budget is, could be a little bit confusing. Technically speaking, we're not asking for any more now than we had last year. We're kind of running, thank you. We kind of ran flat from the standpoint of what we use every year. Our printing and binding, we run it the same amount of money every year. Some years it runs up, some years it runs down. That's owing to the fact that when I came in, I started ordering in 5,000 and 10,000 unit lots because they're considerably less expensive than they used to get 500 at a time, and it was costing us 4 times as much for the printing as it does now. So you'll see some ups and some downs, but you're right, running the 5,000 and 10,000 lots, it'll work like that. When we issue 4,000 permits a year, we are coming up past that 5,000. A lot of people take more than they need when they're going through them, but we use a lot of paper. Our equipment and repair maintenance is showing $16,000 from nothing previously, but that $16,000 is our contribution to Spatial Data Logic. The computer program that we currently use, it would be line 0026.
Yeah, it was 15.
What?
It was 15, and it's 15 now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
15 going to 16.
I was reading the wrong line, excuse me. It went from 15 to 16. That is the Spatial Data Logic line.
I think if you look at the overall budget here presented by Mr. Lupo, what you'll see is that his 2012 appropriations were $126,210, and his requested this year are $143,960, and while that is about a $17,000 increase, what is significant here is that if you look at 027 on that budget, what was appropriated at 0 in 2012 is now appropriated at 50,000, and that's what Councilman Kramer, I think, was alluding to earlier.
Right, I just want the public to hear.
That $50,000 line is earmarked specifically for an ongoing case that's requiring the legal services, and that's I guess several hundred complaints that were filed against Pulte, and that's the Somerset Run case that's been ongoing now for several years and is currently in the Board of Construction Appeals.
So I just wanted to point out, it's costing us a lot of money, but it's basically for our citizens.
It is for the residents of, and it's. We as a municipality, I think, have a responsibility to enforce our construction code, and in this particular case, that's what our construction official is doing, and in doing so, we are incurring legal fees, and that money, which was previously in another budget, it was in our legal budget. We moved from our legal budget to our construction budget because it is specific to the construction office, and so it is more appropriately budgeted there. So that's why you see. So I think that in this particular case, Mr. Lupo has shown a decrease in his OE budgets, but shows an increase on paper because of moving that line from one department's budget,
Yes.
the legal department, to his budget.
Can we use the revenue that he generates to pay the?
Well, and that's why it's in that budget now, is
There's a
because
reason.
it's charged to his budget, and because of other budgeting reasons,
Yeah, okay.
it is, yes.
Well, considering that he runs a surplus anyway, and which can only be spent in his area, that seems wonderful to put it into his budget.
And that's why it's there,
Yes.
Councilman.
That's why it was transferred over to my side.
Is that being handled by the current township attorney?
No.
It's being,
This
in
being
this
handled
case,
by McManaman.
Okay, Leslie
Yeah.
Lund of McManaman. so,
Leslie's
okay.
handling that one currently. The only bright side of that entire thing is, should we prevail in that case, we will be recovering the money that we've spent, because there are penalties associated with that, and hopefully we'll get into recovery with that. In most cases, dollars that we invest, especially in front of the Board of Appeals, and I usually appear in front of the Board of Appeals on behalf of the town, on myself. This is one of the first times I've ever used an attorney with this, and it just got into a lot of money for us. Going to 028, though, so we can continue on, we're showing a $55,000 request on that, and that is, 028. I didn't want to mention this because everybody was talking about contingency funding, but that's not what you have on your sheet. What? Should have been 55,000.
Your explanation says contingency
My-
on the
Page
worksheet.
176 says $15,000, and
Right.
page 178 says $55,000.
I've got my departmental request at 55,000.
but you entered this in Edmonds.
Okay,
It's just a mismatch on one.
I had the difference.
178 has it. Okay.
The difference, I end up transferring the difference onto this one.
Oh,
Well, I'm showing 55,000 here, though, too.
Yeah.
But I understand.
Yeah, 182
What I'm saying
shows
is you entered
55.
this in Edmonds, did you not? These are your entries into Edmonds. It's 15. It probably was a typo when you entered it.
Yeah,
It
it was
should have
probably
been
a typo when I
55 as
entered it.
opposed to 15.
It was 55 as opposed to 15.
Right.
And that is contingency funding. We have to keep a certain amount of money in a contingency fund for emergencies, case in point, homes that may have to be torn down. We have one right now that we're working with. What happens with that is, though, once we expend that money, and we've done it in other cases, we typically put a tax lien on that property, and our tax collector collects that money over a period of time when they're going through. So we do get this money back, but that's what that funding is for.
The same logic that we use to move the legal money into Mr. Lupo's budget is the reason why we would budget that type of contingency here as well, because of the need to budget in his, to put money in his budget.
So then why did we move line 77 out? Telecommunications, fax, email, internet.
Well, actually, we're going to discuss that since you bring that up. The telecommunications charge in Mr. Lupo's budget, I'm trying to get to it now.
I'm showing 47.
That was last year.
It was last year's budget, and it's not in this year's budget, correct?
Correct.
I just need to get to the right page.
Page 177.
yeah.
Thank you, 177. The 47,250 for telecommunications. I have to admit that I don't know what that charge was for.
That is
Van?
Yes, Van.
That is for document.
Oh, that was for document imaging.
I'm showing that on my explanation.
And we just don't-
Ongoing document imaging costs.
And we just don't need it anymore, or
No,
we
we
moved
still
it
need it.
somewhere else?
I thought you had spatial data.
No, that's two
something-
different things.
something
Two different
different,
things. Two
okay.
different
Two
things.
different things.
Okay.
thought we were leaving it there.
I thought that was staying. Yes, we have ongoing document imaging costs. We're working right now with. Yes.
But I guess the question is, why isn't it in 2013?
Do we need it in there for document imaging?
Yes.
So we don't know if there's any cost associated with document imaging for 2013.
For that department?
Why would?
Well, Anne Marie should know.
That's why I'm looking over there.
I thought I had made the request for the same amount, and it looked like it was pulled off. I will say that we have ongoing document imaging costs.
Kimberly, how did you know that she would know? That's
Because that's her project.
Because that's her
Okay.
project.
Okay.
And that's why we're all looking
That's
at
her
her.
project.
Agree?
But we're not allowing her to say anything.
She's the
Keep
project
on telling her.
manager.
I'm impressed you knew that.
Okay.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes, this year with document imaging, we switched vendors on our document imaging software, which was already budgeted, not last year, but the year before. We're still working on that part of it. We just set the scanned images to general code, and they're going to correct the images, and then our system will be up and running. I'm not sure what he has what he was budgeting for, unless he's budgeting for additional back scanning and that type of thing.
So
No one talked to me about that part.
So,
So,
to move on, perhaps the manager will figure this all out and
Yeah.
get back to us on it.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, work with Ma'am.
You don't know
Yeah.
absolutely?
Yes,
Yeah.
the manager will.
Thank you.
Excellent manager.
Okay.
thank you, because
Well, I know that you had been imaging a lot of, call it old paperwork. And so,
about
as the clerk,
1,500 boxes worth of.
Yeah.
The back.
We're all back here now,
scanning.
approximately 1,500 boxes worth. We're generating, you figure we did
work it out.
4,000 permits last year.
Yeah.
Plus what we're closing up. It's going to be an ongoing thing. We're going to be imaging quarterly.
no, I'm
Or-
sure you
Yeah.
are, yeah. I was just thinking that maybe if we had been paying to image old documentation and that had gotten done, then the amount would decrease. But we still need to
We
have,
still have to
for
move
your
forward.
ongoing needs, we need to have a line item here. And it
we're,
should be in your budget.
Yes.
Yeah, it has
Councilman-
to be in his.
Okay,
for
so you
his
guys will
records.
work that out.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
We'll move on
We're
this.
back about 2.5 years right now.
Okay, Mr. Vornlocker will tell us what the amount is
We'll-
at some point.
Deal with it on Thursday.
Okay.
All right,
Anything
so,
else?
the only thing, and this is something that I just wanted, and I have not even had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Lupo about this, but I did have the opportunity to speak with someone recently about a potential customer service issue regarding Mr. Lupo's office, and he and I have talked about this in the past. One of the things that his inspectors do not have currently are cellular telephones. There was a suggestion made that perhaps they would become much more responsive to the people who are having inspections done if they had the ability from the field to call them on the phone, which they currently don't have. I know that it's been the position in the past that there was no need for cellular telephones in the construction office, but I kind of would beg to disagree. I took it on my own at this point to look into the cost of equipping Mr. Lupo's 10, 9 plus 1 to come inspectors. The cost equates to about $4,800 for the year. I think that when you look at the amount of revenue that Mr. Lupo's office generates, I think that $4,800 is a small cost associated with the customer service that we could provide to all of those, how many thousands of inspections?
20,000 inspections last
20,000
year.
inspections. All right, we do 20,000 inspections, and our field inspectors have no way of calling the people whose house they're going to or whose business they're going to say, I'm 10 minutes away, are you there? Or, go to your house right now, I'll be there in a half an hour. I think that as we begin to really work towards customer service and improving our customer service, I think that would go a long way with the 20,000 inspections that we do. So when I saw telecommunications, the reason I said that earlier is my intention to add $5,000 to that line for cellular phones for our inspectors.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I
Makes a
think
lot of
it's
sense.
That's
All
a
right,
great
good.
idea.
It's a
Yeah,
false
makes
economy
sense.
not to have it.
I believe it is.
It's like penny wise and pound foolish.
Very much so.
Yeah.
That's how we have felt. We actually now have broken our town down into two sections. We have an imaginary line that runs through Jocks Lane and Quarterly U, where the 6-mile run is. And what we're going to attempt to do is do inspections on Tuesdays and Thursdays, south of that line, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, north of that line. I would like to cut down on our fuel consumption.
Yes,
And,
we would like that too.
And the amount of time, it takes us 20, 25 minutes to go from the top of the town to the bottom of the town.
Sure.
So what we're looking to do now is to.
You're telling me.
It's a trip. It is a trip. And we've just started it. We know we're going to be making some mistakes. When I say just started it, we're into our first month on it. But it seems to be working. I don't think we'll have too many problems with it.
So will you be a little bit flexible on that? Someone who only has a Tuesday off and lives in the other part of town, you know?
We're going to be as flexible as we possibly can with anything we're doing. Case in point, and I've already told them that if we have someone who has to take off that day, we'll run somebody down there.
Good.
I have asked all my guys and actually my administrative assistants to make sure that we were catering to people as much as we possibly could when we went through this. That's an important thing for me. But, getting into that catering, I mean, we'll talk about it later on, but if we really want to get into customer service, we're going to have to somehow or another extend our hours. We're going to have to get into some kind of a flex time. It is unfair to people to have them sit home and wait for us and take a day off, and sometimes a vacation day, because we start at 7:30 and we finish at 3:30. We do need some evenings when we could be doing inspections.
We talked about this.
Well, we have discussed this before, and without going into great deal or detail about this, it's a contractual item. Right. We have contracts that are currently expired. We can discuss those issues in
future contract
in the future as to the direction that we would take as far as number of work hours in a week and expansion of that. So it's on the table.
Can I ask a question?
Oh.
Go ahead.
So on your vehicles,
Yes.
have you looked at hybrids?
We looked at hybrids when the manager and the assistant manager got theirs, and I've spoken with other towns that have them. Number one, well, quite frankly, they don't work. They're great if you're running strictly highway, from what I understand. Maintenance costs on them are high, and our DPW cannot do the maintenance on them. The cost on the vehicles in and of themselves is about $8,000 to $10,000 more than we currently pay for our vehicles. So I didn't see any cost effectiveness on them for that reason.
Well, thank you for
Councilman
looking.
Wright?
I'd like to ask a question if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'm not speaking all the time, but
Go ahead. Good.
On the bottom.
There
of
are
page-
times.
On the bottom of page 173, you have a request, with the exception of Article 4, the certificate of continued building compliance.
Yes, sir.
Could you explain that, please?
Let me find it. But our request for the continued, Article 4, is we currently have a certificate of continued building compliance. When I wrote that ordinance a number of years ago, and I wrote redid that entire article, that entire ordinance a number of years back, we put in the certificate of continued building compliance. You note the name has nothing to do with occupancy. That was done specifically so that we can get into buildings on changes of ownership and/or tenancy and be able to take a look to make sure that we haven't had any violations of our codes, any illegal changes of use, any life safety issues within the buildings. When we wrote the code for both commercial and residential structures. Council at that time decided to withhold the right to do it on residential structures. And therefore, if you were to read that article, it says in that article that you would revisit it, council will revisit it later on and find out if in fact we wanted to do this on residential structures. What we're asking council to consider is the right to be able to do this certificate of continued building compliance only on resales of homes. And that is because we are running into, and we have found an inordinate amount of illegal conversions from single-family homes to, unfortunately, 2-family, 3-family, and 4-family homes. Our school systems are being overrun owing to the fact that we're having that problem. We don't have a right under our current laws and current codes to be able to get into these homes. unless we have some way of doing it, the best way to do that would be upon the resale. We're not hurting the new owner. When we're coming in, we're actually helping them. And one of the biggest problems that we had when we were doing that, we've got a lot of complaints from the public when they would turn around and say, how come you allowed me to purchase this home thinking it was a two-family home? And the truth is, they're right. They shouldn't have, we should have been able to warn them. One of the things we can do is we check our records, we check the tax records, we go in, we take a look at them, and we do find a lot of illegal occupancies and a lot of code issues, and in some cases, a lot of life safety issues. When a lot of these people are changing these homes to 2, 3, and 4 families, there is no egress. We're walking into basement conversions on apartments that you can't get out of. I mean, you just can't get out of. The steps going down are only 22 and 26 inches wide, and there's no other way out, no windows, no nothing. We're up in attics. Just the other day, somebody called me and turned somebody in with an attic. And the guy stood right there and said, we don't rent the attic out. We don't do anything with the attic. And I said, well, why do you have air conditioners up there?
Mr. Mayor? Yes. I know this issue has come up a lot. Can I recommend that the Public Safety Subcommittee vet through this and relook at the ordinance and come up with a recommendation? Because we really need to get on this.
Thank you, Council.
But it's not appropriate for tonight's discussion.
There was a notorious case a number of years ago in Princeton where a couple of people died of carbon monoxide poisoning in a overstuffed house, essentially a rooming house.
I apologize for bringing it up.
No, it's no apology necessary. We have talked about this.
Yeah, and I would like very much to attend any meeting we can go through and be able to talk about it.
Okay, so
I just have one question.
Councilman Wright, go ahead.
Can we make sure that it's on the public safety agenda?
Yes.
Somewhere down the line, because
I
noticed that
it's in the minutes now that it's been referred to public safety. We have a Public Safety Committee meeting tomorrow. I think it's a little too early to get it on tomorrow's agenda, but we'll follow it up at the next agenda meeting.
I love it.
Okay, so
so we can go in that direction.
Okay,
Thank you.
That goes public safety. Just for my own knowledge, you're saying only upon the sale of the unit would you go into?
I'm sorry, Mayor. With commercial structures, we do them on sale, resale, sale, change of occupancy, any change of use.
Right.
I would recommend that, and I do believe that's what it says, it would only be on a resale.
For residential.
On residentials, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
But if somebody complained, you wouldn't look at it, right?
Oh, if there's...
Well, the one thing, Councilman Wright, the one thing we didn't want to do, quite frankly, and I don't want to hold up anybody any longer, was we wanted to make sure that we weren't trampling on people's rights when we were doing this. So that's why we turned around and said, look, we'll ask, and I do believe it's written that way, that it just be resales on residential.
And that's why I remember, that's why I asked that specifically also.
I think that's what happened originally.
Okay, good. So did you have, did you have anything else, Mr. Lupo?
No, sir, in a roundabout way, I think we covered about everything. Thank you.
Okay, from the council?
Thank you.
No, thank you. Very
Keep
good.
up the
Thank
good
you,
work.
Mr. Lupo, we appreciate it. Now we go to item number 7, Finance. Our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Vandana Karana.
Can you talk? You have a voice? Andy's coming up too, or no? Okay.
Page 76 in section 1. There will be no capital request out of the finance department, so
You have to
speak
quarantine
strictly
that
OE.
microphone after she uses it?
She doesn't have to talk. I can handle hers. All right. Which I will, in
I'm sorry, what
fact.
page was that?
Page 76.
Thank
I
you
want
for
to thank
coming, Van. It's-
Van for
what-
coming here tonight. She didn't need to. I told
Is
her
she
that
like
she should
Joyce
stay
Miller, the
home.
only person in her department?
And
Yes.
she is, in fact, the only person in her department. So again, much like Mrs. Miller earlier, this is a salary budget of 1.
We're going to have a charity football game between the two departments.
Absolutely.
I mean, she does have a number of people, they're just...
She does, and we'll discuss that, absolutely. There are people in the finance department, but they are not employees of Franklin Township. They are employees of Hodgelick and Morrison, and
That would
as,
have to be a
What page?
ping pong match, Mr.
I would refer to you, this is
There's no
quick, and
page.
it is page 76 and 77.
Thank you.
77 begins the OE budget, which is where the bulk of the money regarding our finance department is budgeted in line 028. you can see $311,250. That is what funds that personnel that you speak of in the finance department, as well as the services of our financial consultant, Mr. Hodgelick, who's seated in the audience behind me. I believe he's still there, if I don't have to turn around.
He's still there.
I thought so.
He was sneaking out.
There is
Funny hand
a
gesture.
minimal amount of money also budgeted for things such as conferences and meetings, education and training, and association dues related to our CFO, Mrs. Karana, as well as the software licensing for Edmunds, which is our accounting and budgeting software for the township. And I think that what you see is an increase of approximately $30,000, and that is primarily due to the fact that the cost for our financial consultant services have gone up slightly. Well, and in defense of him, in defense of Mr. Hodgelick and his firm, the truth is that Mr. Hodgelick in previous budget year took a voluntary cut in his fee, and this is just simply replacing that to its former number.
Okay. You okay with that, Dr. Kramer?
I thought he was cheap. That's what
Yes.
I'm thinking, you know.
I was the one who had asked him to.
I know, that's why I asked.
He's paid his penance.
Okay.
And that, in fact, is the finance budget, and I don't know if you have any questions of me or of Van, but that is pretty straightforward as far as budgets go.
Was there anything else you wanted to add, Van? Are
Ms.
you okay?
Carana?
That's good? Okay.
You know, it's a pretty cut and dry budget, actually.
Okay.
Okay, and from the council?
I'd just like
Yeah,
to add,
Councilman Prasad.
the finance department used to be a mess, so I want to congratulate
Getting much better.
the CFO and the consultants on doing a great job and getting it straightened out. And
Keep up the good work.
I think when Councilwoman Francois first was elected to council, it was on long sheets of green paper
Oh,
being
my.
added by hand.
We won't even go there. You're making me look older than I am. Long sheets of green
really
paper.
He really wanted to say, and there were no computers
Oh, yeah.
when you first.
I didn't mean that.
Have any
in your lug-
computers back then either.
I just
That's
mean
right.
it's come a long way in
Yes,
the
it has.
term.
Rocks and shovels,
year.
I
baby,
got your
rocks and
point.
shovels.
No.
Thank you, Van.
Little
Get
more.
some rest. Feel better.
Rana, thank you very much. So now we have
Thank you.
item number 8,
They didn't have shovels in the
our township clerk, Ms. Anne Marie McCarthy.
Thank you,
to cover
Andy.
Township clerk, elections, and the mayor and council.
These budgets begin on page 43 with the mayor and council budget, and then continue on for some time through the book beyond page 43.
Okay, the first one is the mayor and council budget. Overall, it's a few $100s less than the year before,
No salary increases.
and no salary increases.
Make sure you say that.
Okay, the mayor and council have no salary increases.
Okay.
Oh, I was talking about OE.
Oh, the whole
The
budget.
the-
Okay.
the
Yeah.
OE budget is less, the salary budget is
It's the-
static.
It's
Yeah.
it's the same.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the next,
Okay.
Okay, what else?
then we move on to the township clerk one, which
I'm-
starts.
Oh,
go
was
ahead.
it just like, just a few hundred that it's under? Were those just underspent last year? Is that why?
Yeah, I mean, there is no more cutting that budget unless we start removing line items.
No, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not
It was
suggesting
just
that.
tweaking
I'm
it.
just wondering why you dropped
We-
it, actually.
Just
didn't
tweaking
go-
where we didn't spend.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, I'm not suggesting.
Your league,
it go down.
Yeah, I was just going to
have
say,
gone
we didn't
down.
go to the league this year. It was
Well,
canceled.
last year, but overall, the total amount that for you guys going down has decreased. So, things have been,
Well, our Fifth Ward representative isn't here. We could cut that line item.
We get a quick
Okay.
majority, yeah.
okay. Then it's the township clerk budget,
No, you're, okay. The- I-
starts on page 55.
And all the revenue taken, I guess that's on page 1 here, right?
Revenue is on
Licenses,
page 1
fees,
and
et
2,
cetera.
correct.
Okay, got it.
Talking about wedding revenue?
I mean, anything.
That would be in revenue and other.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
But that revenue that comes in for weddings, it goes directly to the person performing the wedding.
So, that,
$50 is, 100 is retained by the township, and $50 goes to the person that officiates.
So the 6,000 you show here
Correct.
is that $100?
That $6,000 is, we have to have a line item to appropriate the money in order to give it back to the mayor or the deputy mayor.
Okay.
So we take in that 6,000 and then it goes back out.
Right, that's the pass-through for
Yes.
that purpose that
Okay.
you're raising.
the
Exactly.
gross is about 18,000, the town retains 12, and 6 is paid out.
Correct.
If that were the case, okay.
That's correct.
So I might be a profit center. Pardon me, go ahead.
Okay, any more questions?
We're going
on-
to add a special tax to that.
Okay, any more questions on the mayor and council budget?
No.
Good. Okay, then the
I
township.
think
clerk-
Kimberly Francois has something.
No, there was a question that came up. There, one of the council people assumed by ordinance we received increases. That, we did away with that, right? Didn't we do away with that one year?
I mean, I would say at least
Increases by ordinance for
we haven't,
council and
we
mayor.
have not touched the salary ordinance for the mayor and council in probably 4 or 5 years.
That's what I remember. Okay. Yeah. It was a joke. Well, I really did have a question, so
No,
it's okay.
we haven't, we
Thank
haven't
you.
touched,
Right.
haven't touched it in about 4 or 5 years.
Okay. That's fine.
Actually, Jimmy has said it was tied to another.
Okay, go
Okay.
right ahead.
Okay. Okay, my OE budget.
55 starts your.
Right, and my OE starts on 59. Overall, my budget has increased about $6,000, and that has to do with the agenda packet, the paperless agenda software. Last year, we only did 7 months, and this year it's a full 12 at $850 a month. And what else?
Pardon me, which
yes.
line is that in?
That is line item 28.
That's 28, okay.
And also, there's a provision for the maintenance of the document imaging program that we are going to be online in about 2 months. And then other increases have to do with conferences and meetings and association dues that I have to add Christine Burke, because she now is a registered municipal clerk, and she needs to, yes, and she needs to get her CEUs like I do. So when she belongs to the association, she gets to go to the different things at the reduced rate.
Okay, good.
Any questions about the clerk budget?
Your actual printing and binding went down.
Yes, it's because we're more paperless than we have been.
That's good.
Yes.
So from an economical perspective, the cost of the paper is not all that much. When we went paperless, it's actually the cost of the person who had to do all the copying where the main cost savings came.
Well, it's also the cost of the paper. There were some packets are a council person. So that's, I mean, that's a lot of paper.
It's another.
And there's what you're paying on the copy.
Right.
Well, it's the toner cost.
And the person standing there that takes an hour and a half.
But that's
2 hours to
usually,
copy and collate.
that seemed to be you on Friday evening.
Yes, that would be me.
Yeah, but I got the impression like the deputy mayor frees up a lot of staff time for
Yes.
your real work.
I was actually done with the packet, this past packet, like Wednesday evening. And then when it was all done, all I had to do was hit a button and it was distributed instead of me standing on Friday evening copying it. So it saves a lot of time.
Yeah, efficient.
And then council members want to add more resolutions.
It's a lot easier to add to this than it was before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Question, had we gone to these budget books electronically, or was it the school budget that
Well,
was electronic?
this particular budget book, there was discussion at financial oversight about and the direction that we would take as far as our budget. And it was, while Anne Marie has kind of experimented with publishing this budget book through the paperless agenda software, the discussion had amongst financial oversight members was that this is such a bulky document that to try to go through it on your iPads or your laptops would be very, very difficult as we go through these budget hearings. We had already had the conversation ourselves that we were going to do it both ways this year and see how council felt. And I think I tend to agree, as I sit here, that it would be very difficult to do this particular task with an online document as opposed to a hard document. So I think that what we will probably do is continue to do this for council's purposes in paper form. However, we will be able to do this document electronically for the benefit of the public and as we move forward.
Yeah, very good.
So yes, I mean, that's the advantage of doing it electronically.
So anyone in the public eventually will be able to maybe log in the website and...
Absolutely. We'll be able to do it just as
Excellent.
they get your
Very good.
agenda every 2 weeks for the council meetings.
Okay.
I'm a proud computer nerd, but when it
Yeah.
comes to something like this, you need the paper.
It's once a year.
Well, we eventually have to submit the budget to the state, right?
We do, the
Right. But this-
budget document,
the document,
not what
not
you
the-
see here, but our budget document gets submitted to the state, and obviously that's a paper form. But I think that as council reviews all of these different lines of the budget, be they revenue budget or appropriation budgets, that I think that you need to just be able to go from page to page to page and flip back and forth in the book. It would be very cumbersome, I
Absolutely.
think, to try to do it electronically.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
We're just not there yet.
Technology changes,
Yeah.
and we may find an easier way to do it, but right now, I think this is the easiest way.
I think so.
Okay, Ms. McCarthy.
Especially with hyperlinking.
Is there more?
That we could probably do it.
If you want, I can distribute the way it is electronically, so you can see what it looks like on your iPad, even though you have the paper, because I already have it in the system. So.
I guess it couldn't hurt
Yeah,
if you,
send it out.
if you emailed
Yeah.
it, we could choose
I
to
can.
open it or
I mean,
not.
it'll be on your
That's easy.
iPads just like a regular meeting. I mean,
Okay.
all you gotta do. I mean, the way it's set up is you hit whatever department, and then whatever department, whatever budgets are for that department are attached, and you just click on each one. So,
Okay, it might be good for us to just take.
I mean, you can see how it
Take
looks.
a look. Okay, thank you.
The real reason it would be good is because then we can
You won't-
shred these.
Right,
still
and you'll
a
have,
reference.
and you still have the workbook for reference, correct.
Okay.
And my last budget is the election budget, which starts on page 71. And the main cost of that is the printing and binding, which is the cost of the primary sample ballots, which the cost is driven from the county clerk's office. And this year, it'll increase because there'll be 5 separate ballots because we have the election of the 5 ward council people. So there's 5 different ballots.
So if there is a special school election which has been bantered, would that affect your?
That is not going to affect our budget because by state statute, they are responsible for all costs and will be billed directly.
Okay. Okay.
And they will have to pay me too.
All right.
So to reduce our budget, can we just cancel the elections?
It would make my day.
Was them paying
be
you
nice.
for real or a joke?
No, that's for real. According to statute, they will have to pay whatever I work outside of 8:30 to 4:30 that day.
Okay. On any of these for Ms. McCarthy?
Any other thing? That's it?
No, I guess.
Thank you.
We're
Is
done.
that increase in request enough? You're just.
Yes, yes. Because last year was a big one, was because it was presidential, it was
Yeah.
large too, so. No, that'll be, it's enough. We've never gone over that amount.
No, we just interject. you hear other towns with lawsuits where someone has some, like, mega Oprah request, and it costs a lot. If you haven't experienced that kind of
Oh, I was
issue.
taken to the Government Records Council on an OPA request, but our wonderful attorney sent a response in, and they sided with us.
Okay.
So I was correct, and the person that took me to the Government Records Council was incorrect.
Okay.
But we're up to like OPA request number 100. That's just us. That doesn't include the police department or construction. We get hundreds of
Really?
requests during the year.
And where's the bulk of them from? I mean, I
Construction and police.
construction, but like.
Everybody comes in for a copy of their survey, a copy of all the permits that ever happened to their property if they're buying a house.
Is that?
They want to see everything that's ever happened to that property before they buy it.
I don't know if this matters, but is that Oprah? Can someone just walk up and say, "Can I have a copy of everything"? Technically, it doesn't matter. but if that's
Technically,
the
it's an
same
open
thing,
request.
I mean,
There's variations of an open request. If there's a record that you can hand them right away, they won't have to fill out the form. They would just sign a log. But if they want anything and everything from every department on a piece of property, that's going to take
Okay, it takes a
more.
while, a lot
Yeah,
of
it takes
research.
more than just handing them over something.
What percentage of OPA requests are open government-like request? I won't use that name.
probably
I'll use
one-
my name. Tough-like requests.
1% maybe.
1%, okay.
One, as opposed to, can I see the survey on my house?
Correct. That's
the
yeah.
90%.
I mean, there's very few that are asking for minutes or,
Oh.
you know, that kind of thing. It's
Okay.
or legal
Oh, that's
bills or
interesting.
whatever. It's mainly properties and police
Okay.
records.
Okay, oh, interesting, okay. Okay.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Now we have Bob.
And the final one,
Final is
Township Manager, Mr.
the
Robert
manager's
Hornlocker.
budget,
Overhead.
which starts on page 8 with the salary budget, I believe.
8.
Now, there's several salary budgets, and the last page is actually where the salary budget begins. The salary budget is fairly straightforward. It includes the manager's office coordinator, and while it shows a vacancy there has been a decision made to shift some things that you will see on tomorrow's agenda at the council meeting and fill some positions and rather than belabor that here, I think that you've all had an opportunity, I hope, to see the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting, which talks about positions being filled and what have you. So, but there'll be a move from the assistant manager's budget. There'll no longer be a need for an assistant manager's budget. There'll be an HR budget, and there'll be the manager's budget where that vacancy will be filled with a position that we can talk about tomorrow.
Okay.
But,
Yes.
so what you have decided is to fill with a.
Special projects manager,
instead of
correct.
an assistant manager, so why am I?
When this budget was done, there was no decision made when these sheets were made. That's what I'm saying. And rather than cloud the whole issue, this sheet will be changed to reflect special projects manager as
Got it.
opposed to assistant manager.
Thank you.
Okay. As far as the OE budget for the manager's office, what you see here is, and actually, rather than look at the admin sheet, I'd ask if you could just go to starting on page 11, which is the cover sheet, and then begin on page 12, because there are some significant changes in the manager's budget from last year. The first one is in line 029. There are two things there that were not budgeted in this line in previous years. Well, and I say that, it says prepare GASB 45 unfunded liability report. That is the Governmental Account Standards Board Statement 45, which is the retirement benefit actuarial, retirement benefits other than pension, primarily health care benefits for retirees. It's a report that's done every 2 years, and so it's funded here in the manager's budget, as well as grant administration, which has been moved into the manager's budget from elsewhere, and that is the contract grant writer that we budget $30,000 for, that we are in the process of reviewing right now as far as that's concerned, and was a subject of a recent administrative committee meeting and will be the subject of another. But that's where that money has been moved to the manager's budget. All office supplies are budgeted in the manager's budget, and that is line 036. As you can see, that's remained constant. Same as goes for conferences and meetings. Education and training, which is not previously budgeted, is directly reflects courses which your manager will be taking regarding municipal financing and budgeting.
Which we requested.
Which you requested that I take, correct. Yep. So I will be taking them through Rutgers University. Association dues are the typical association dues related. And then we get to line 77, which is the contingency that we talked about earlier. It has, in previous years, been budgeted at $270,000. In the interest of bringing that number into probably a better number fiscally, and still feeling comfortable that it will cover any possible contingency, I've recommended that it be lowered $30,000 to $240,000. Based on our last 3 years spending out of that line, I think that that's a more appropriate number at this particular point. So while the overall budget goes up slightly, most of it being attributed to the training and the moving of the $30,000 for the grant coordinator into the manager's budget.
Can that contingency money go anywhere, or it's restricted like all other kinds of
Can
transfers?
it go anywhere? It can go to any expense that's appropriate that would be an OE expense. So yes, and that's my responsibility as manager to make sure that it's an appropriate expense. And obviously, if it's one of those that requires a resolution or ordinance, it would follow the same as any other expenditure.
No, but a snow removal or a sandy.
And absolutely, yes. I mean, it could be moved to any number of things. It's also money that's put in the budget for transfers at the end of the budget year, should there be a necessity for transfers. Okay. Any other questions for me regarding the manager's budget?
For Mr. Vornlocker? No, I guess not, sir. You have anything else for us?
I have nothing today for you. I'll save mine for tomorrow.
Okay, good deal. So we've come to the end of our budget presentations for the evening. So then, if nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained? We are adjourned. Thank you.